Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and it is Roundtable Night and my final show because I am taking next week off, but I will be back the first Monday of September, so you don't have to worry. The weekend show is still going to be here, and Marquise's dreads are going to look awesome on the air, and Nicole's hair is going to look flat ironed as perfect, and we're going to have great shows for you on the weekends while I'm away. Okay, it's roundtable time. We got great people here for you. We got Marquise, we got Katie Page, Science Bob, Lala Bright, and we'll see where Nicole is. I don't know where she is. She's hiding right now. Yeah. She might be watching Sex in the City and having margaritas. I don't know. Or martinis, pardon me. Martinis. Moving on, let's say hello to everyone who's here so far. Race fan in the gold medal position, Laura Lobbs with the silver, Jack Clark taking home a nice bronze medal tonight as we continue on with our awesome roll call. And let's see who else we got. Jack Clark, C-Mac, welcome to SOR chat. And who else we got? Gong Show is here. Gong Show will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Robert Lamoth, Luscious Jewels, Raven Creek, good to see you all. Hey, Brad Dwarf, Nancy Thames, Roy Boy, Lisa C., Missouri Man, Debster, what's going on? Hey, Paramarv, how's the conference so far? Do you miss us there? Are you wearing your SOR swag? Get a picture for me, man. Get a picture for me. W. Decker, Raymond L., good to see you guys. Hello, Les Paul Holland in Australia. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, Cosmo Fang, it's been a while. Good to have you back. What the hell was that noise? Sabrina, how are you? And there's Mike and our favorite Marine, Black Dragon. Nikki in Seattle, how are you? And who else? We got D. Sypha. Continuing on with roll call tonight. Jenny White Bear, how are you? And who else we have? Scroll on down. Gansfeld, nice to see you. And T-Bone, what's happening, my man? Where else are we? Let's take a look here. And JSCO, how are you? And there's a Debster super chat right there. Thank you, Deb, for kicking off the super chat tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. Dave Walters, thank you for joining us. Noble Patrick, good to see you. Xander Bright, how are you? Xander Bright will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Don't make eye contact. He refuses to sign if you make eye contact. Just saying. Just keep it normal. Okay. Moving on. Trot Dog, Susan Alloway, Simon, Deer Slayer. Good to see you all. Hi, Richard Elmore and Millennium, my man. Vanessa Love, how are you? Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Lacey Blue, nice to see you. Emmy Tong, thanks for coming on in. Tim Mothman and Tim Mothman's goatee, two separate entities. Science Bob and Lala Bright are in the chat room. Hi, Monica. Thank you for joining us. Light Walkers, good to see you. Mikey P, welcome to SOR chat. Good morning to you, my fellow Commonwealther. Wayne M, welcome to SOR chat. The Armenian, how are you? And who else do we have? Pam Harris, Jeff Steve Garvey. He'll hit a home run for you. W. Decker, thank you for that awesome super chat. Very much appreciate the love and support you to give for us nightly, my man. Thank you. All right, let's start the radio side so we can let Bill WD40 into the chat room and lube us up for tonight's show. You always want to go into a show nice and smooth. The Digger Dog, Sycophia, how are you guys? And who else do we have? Another super chat coming in from Science Bob and la bright. And thank you guys. Very much appreciate that. Vin Man, good to see you. Hi, D. Henderson. Cowboy Five Strings, Ian McFadden, good morning to you. Nina Williams, Nick Adkins, Lumiere Bidet, welcome to SOR chat. And who else do we have? Scott Rosen, thanks for joining us. And Oob to Joe's Main, you've got aliens. Remember, you can go to Patreon right now, sign up for the Space Travelers Club, choose your rank, horns up, let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok, Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It is that time of the month, once again, where we take a look back at the month that was in the show we call the SOR Roundtable. Yep, it's been a busy one. Lots of controversy, especially in the UFO world. Lots of news around David Grush, senators and Congress people now saying maybe we don't need UFOs anymore, and so much more. We got a great panel for you tonight from our After Hours program. Marquise Williams is here. Katie Page, researcher, podcaster, author, and experiencer. As well, from the scientific side, Science Bob is here, along with his much lovelier half, Lala Bright, who did a great job at flat ironing her hair tonight for this show, because it always looks good on radio that way. Everybody, welcome to the Round Table, and we appreciate you being here. We're going to start off with the month that was, and it started off with a lot of news, basically rumblings that we heard after the last hearings that maybe, just maybe, the UFO story wasn't going to continue much longer. Bob, I want to start with you on this one. Where do you go from here? Where did you think of the month?
There's ups and downs. We know from everything that's being said and all the actions being taken that there's a war going on inside the government. Part of the government wants disclosure. Part of the government does, or whoever is in the other group doesn't want disclosure. And there's got to be reasons. I'm sure some of them are greed, some of them are fear, some of them are worried that the story of humanity will come out and it doesn't comport with what their beliefs are. So there's just this nonstop war that's been going on since the 1950s, and it's continuing. But the National Defense Authorization Act has passed the Senate in a huge bipartisan vote. And this is, I call it the government and Congress take over, and we learn everything about Roswell and everything else that's happened since the 1950s. But it has to now pass the House and then be signed by the president. So there's a lot to go.
Katie Page, we bring you in here to take a look at the month that was. It was up, it was down. A lot of high strangeness going on, a lot of controversy around David Grush, a lot of controversy around, members of the GOP like Chris Christie the other night. We're going to get into all of this tonight, but just overall, your month in the UFO world, it was different, wasn't
it? Yeah, it really was. I mean, I'm not very popular here when it comes to we don't need Congress and the government for for the truth to come out. We just need we the people to bring out the truth on UAP, UFOs, and all the high strangeness things. And I'm one that just likes to keep my head down. I stay in my lane. And, this back and forth, this 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. I mean, it's just decade after decade. It goes on and on and on. You don't know who to trust. You don't know who to believe. And there's just so much noise. It's just so distracting like everything else. It's a crazy time for sure.
Marquise, your thoughts?
You're muted.
You got to mute your mic there. Okay, while we're working on Marquise, let's go over to Lala. Your thoughts of the month. I know you're trying to get into this, and it's a little heavy for you.
Hello? No.
There he is.
Hello.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay. Sorry, for some reason it defaulted to a different audio setting. I don't know why. But anyway, I think it's been one of the most interesting months of the year so far, because just like you are all saying, there's a lot of confusion and there's some controversy on so many different sides. But I think it's up to us. It's our responsibility as researchers that present this information to the public to cut through that BS so that people can understand exactly how they should view this. And so for me, it's just sticking to my guns, sticking to the research, and staying true to myself and the topic. And of course, the people that we talk to. So, yeah.
There's a lot of opinions that have been going on around the world, Lala, and regarding the UFO front and connections and consciousness and everything that goes on. It seemed like it was going to start to break open. And then all of a sudden, this wall just seemed to start coming back over the top of everything. Did you notice that too?
Yeah, I did. I do not know why, but even here we had a lot of activity, and then it got really quiet for a while, and it's starting up again. But I don't know why that does that. Maybe they kind of take a step back so everybody can absorb what's going on, because it is quite a lot for a lot of people that aren't used to this. Because all over the world, people are seeing something.
Well, and that's true. More and more people are seeing. MUFON's reports are up. Cryptid reports are up. Everything seems to be up ever since people started paying attention. Now, when they go into the forest and they go camping, their ears are open for strange noises in the trees around them. Their eyes are open when they are looking up into the, into the moonlight and into the stars, trying to count satellites and see if there's anything strange. I mean, that's a good thing, Bob. That's a good thing that more people are paying attention and taking the time to report it.
It's absolutely true. And, Lala and I, we don't live in a very dark place. I mean, we live on the coastline of Maryland. But we sit on our back deck, look at the sky for hours, and we see all sorts of stuff. And we have inexpensive cameras, and they're capturing all sorts of stuff. I just think people aren't looking up. And Lala has got a couple of interesting places on her arm, and she's been doing research, and it looks like 25 other abductees who've had the same marks. So it's just, it's been interesting around here. And I got my Sky 360 box, and I'm about to complete it. So that's going to be good. We're going to be doing very high quality captures here. So I think, I'm with Katie. We need to do citizen science and citizen engineering and citizen observing, and let it out and let us tell everybody, like Lala and I've been doing, you guys have been doing. And if the government catches up to us, great.
Do we see, Katie, the start of going back to old ufology? And the reason why I ask that, we see a real push and in the government trying to push this subject back under the carpet where they feel it belongs. There's a number of people, not everybody is a Tim Burchett or a Marco Rubio that wants to know this subject, or a Mark Warner or an AOC that wants to learn more about this, that think that there actually is something going on. There are many out there, especially in states where there's a lot of military bases and military contracting, that are kind of starting to speak up a little bit. I'm talking to you, Mike Turner. Okay.
We need to get creative here. Yeah.
Okay. But then you add in AI and the way videos are coming out these days. Are we are we about to blow up in ufology, that, that zit finally popped kind of thing, and we go back to the beginning again?
Ew. No, I think it's an exciting time. I think we need to get creative. I think, gosh, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we didn't have this platform in our favor. And I think that's what they're afraid of. We are able to speak to each other from around the world right now, band together. The trick is going to be for all of us is to turn off the noise, turn off the trying to tear everybody down, start working together, and just, we have to all, like, from different fields, whether it's the Bigfoot world, Sasquatch world, UFOs, paranormal, it's time to all kind of come together and figure this stuff out. And I think that's what really they're afraid of. And as the more and more whistleblowers come forward, let's bring them on board and let's give them platforms everywhere we can to speak their truth.
Well, I understand that and I can appreciate that, but I guess you answered the question perfectly, but it wasn't the answer. I maybe it's because I didn't form the question properly. I'm looking at it that we're seeing a lot of pushback now in the government from the military industrial complex. AI is getting stronger and stronger with their videos and their the photography that people can create with it. So how do we use videos, pictures as evidence now? The government isn't going to admit to anything. And the military's already said, we're not shipping out any more videos. We're done. So how do we go and create evidence when everything the last 6.5 years has been built around the government in this topic?
Right. Well, I can just say, every week I pull out cases of the week. And even within the MUFON ranks, it's really important to have really well-trained photo forensics, video forensics, people who will take a look at these cases. And there's been some, quite frankly, that have been overlooked, that weren't really looked at that closely, which are mind-blowing. We're talking 90-degree right-angle turns, high speed, shooting on the lightning clouds, really great footage. And if we can get these genuine, and you're right, there's so much that's faked right now, so much CGI, but there are ways to tell. And so we just really need to do our due diligence to put out there what's real and genuine and give it its own platform for people to see what's really going out. And more videos and more photos are coming in. Cases are way up. So it's just a matter of getting that really good footage out there. It doesn't necessarily need to come from the Nimitz or military men and women, although those are great cases, but there's so much out there that's just as good for us to see that's real.
Marquise Williams from After Hours, you have been very key and on top of what's been happening in the AI world over the last few months. Yeah. And when you see the vast improvement over such a short time of AI videos, of AI photography, of AI manifestations, of all you have to do is type in the words of what you want. It can design its own thing. This is getting scary for people who are trying to report proper UFO or even cryptid or ghost sightings.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say, President Zaddy, calm down. He's funny. I like this guy.
We're on the radio.
I like this guy. The second thing is when it comes to this this issue that you're talking about, the artificial intelligence and people being able to fake footage and fake information in general. We've had an issue with misinformation for years. It's no secret that there's an issue with bots and so forth on all different platforms. Now we have to deal with this issue that you're talking about, and that's artificial intelligence being able to fabricate video, which we've seen people being able to create entire videos from artificial intelligence. I don't think it's at the level right now where it can completely, emulate real live, UFO sightings, because we understand the characteristics. If we even think about the history of ufology, we understand them. The problem isn't us. The problem is with the general population that's not aware of the history of ufology and doesn't know about how what original footage has been shown throughout the decades. When they see new footage that's being altered, for example, they may be easily fooled. And even if they're not, when you have people like Mick West who do their due diligence and debunk a lot of this footage, then you have him essentially galvanizing these people and building rapport with them to where he can influence their perception about the phenomena in general. So again, I think I'm going to retort back to the fact that we need to be together. To Katie's point, we need to unify across the spectrum of these phenomena, instead of infighting, which it seems like there's a lot of that lately. I think that's the intention of, if you will, this shadow government military industrial complex, the clandestine groups, whoever is working against the freedom of this information. I think that we need to come together and work towards figuring this out together and educate the people that are not aware of the history of ufology. That's what we need to focus our attention on right now. That's what I think.
And I think that's a very good point, strong point there, Marquise, in regards to it. Lala Bright, you are somebody who films a lot. You feel a lot with your intuition. You and Science Bob have caught a lot of strange anomalies on camera and on film. And when you look at what you capture, I mean, that is natural what you are seeing. Okay. And you guys are Zeusing it, breaking it down. Science Bob, I mean, you're one of the more brilliant minds out there, regarding this stuff. And you've been doing it for years. And if people don't know, you've got your name on 20 plus satellites up in space right now. That's just 20 we can talk about. Okay. So I don't know how many more Science Bob pictures are up there anywhere else. So the point that I'm getting at, Lala, is this. When you take your evidence that you are collecting on your own, a lot of people are going to say, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look proper anymore because of this advancement of AI technology.
Yeah, it's hard. I didn't know until recently how good AI really is. I mean, he makes some stuff on there, and I'm thinking it's a real picture, and he created it. So it is hard. I get a lot of backlash because of that. But especially with just pictures, that's really hard. But with videos, it's a little easier. So I do the back and forth breakdown of the movements and the timestamps and the dates. And I just try my best to break it down and show that this is real. It's in our backyard. That I didn't create this. And I welcome, certain ideas and criticism. It helps me. It does. I think everybody should listen to that. So
I think that you're right. We do need to be able to question things and where it goes on and how it goes on. But I mean, do we see a point, Science Bob, where it's going to come very soon where we can no longer trust video or photographic evidence when it comes to UFOs?
I think our cryptids. I think, yeah. So what she's talking about is I'm using Midjourney and Artist AI and these other things to generate these scenes and videos, and they're getting really good. I think we are one, maybe as much as two, but not much more than 2 years away from you can't tell what it generates from what you can get with your best camera. So what does this say to me? It says to me that we have to be smarter about our evidence, but we are going to have the ability to be smarter about our evidence. And what do I mean by this? Video and photos are not enough. You need to add some other data to it. So let me give you an example. Katie was on a program Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. And these guys went out there with toys and Katie, and they got all sorts of evidence, including videos and photos. But they got other evidence, which said it's not a fake because here's radio signals, and here's these kind of signals, and this kind of data, and all together, that's impossible to fake. Okay, so that's where we have to go. Now, the nice part about this is it's the same trend that's been going on for years. It's why I started UAPTN and then Sky Hub, and now we're into Sky 360. It's that we have these other sensors whose data we can marry to the videos and photos contemporaneously for when the videos and photos are taken. And so if you have magnetometer and gravitometer and pressure and radiation and RF and all these different things gathered and added into a ball, now it becomes impossible to deny what we have. And so that's going to happen. People are going to have to be educated. An SCU is a perfect place. They're continuing to kind of do the traditional stuff, which is analyze cases. But what they need to do is put their science and engineering talent together with me and others to see what it is we can recommend to people to get better data. If we do all that together, we're going to make headway.
Well, we can only hope, because, I mean, the future of what we know as current ufology is going to change drastically over the next little bit. And the way evidence is collected might, Katie, have to go back to real old school boots on the ground type of anecdotals, following up anecdotal stories and seeing what kind of evidence we can get face to face rather than over a computer.
Yeah, Science Bob has a great point. We just like with Beyond Skinwalker, and no official announcements yet, but I mean, the fact that this show had the foresight to look at other areas other than the Skinwalker Ranch and make these connections and do all these, radio, sound, underground, rockets, all these different types of equipment that they're using. And we're talking cryptids too. I think it's super exciting for me and all these other areas, Trey Hudson down south and all of us working together. And we have these science teams, and science is going to point the way, not to take away from the credibility of a witness and witness accounts, because that's just as important. You have to come at it at all different angles, and collectively as a whole, that's going to speak volumes.
Is science going to lead the way, though? The science has been trying to lead the way on this for the last few years since it's been public. They haven't gained anything. It's you look at Gary Nolan coming out a number of months ago and stating we wouldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for the experiencers and their stories who've led us in these directions. I mean, so really, what has science gained besides creating these hyperactive groups that are wanting to take over ufology?
I think they're doing some really incredible work with the brain and with what we can manifest and, dream. I mean, all of these things are really important, because I'm one that kind of believes that we interact with the phenomenon. It doesn't matter if it's UFOs or the paranormal or cryptids, we interact. And I think that's understanding the brain and how we interact with reality itself is going to bring some answers. It's not my area of expertise, but I certainly like reading about the advances that they're making, in quantum physics and that. So I don't know, maybe it'll come from unexpected places that we don't quite understand yet.
Marquisa, and while I'm not trying to hold you out here, but Science Bob, I want your opinion on this. As the scientist, really, what is science bringing to this table that they aren't telling the public?
Okay, so again,
we got 40 seconds.
We need all this data together. So I'm going to give you another one. Beyond Skinwalker Ranch put an EEG on Chris Bledsoe, and they found orbs and all sorts of other stuff, including the big radio frequency. And he would point out in the sky where the orb was, and his brain went into an unbelievable, not normally measurable configuration when these entities came to the sky. This is all science. So we're doing observational science, which just means we're collecting data. While we keep collecting this data, we have to think about hypotheses that we can test later. We're getting science.
All right. They shut me up on the science part, but when we come back, we are going to get into politics in the next half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Chris Christie at the Republican debate says, UFOs, come on, man. Then Mike Turner says, we don't need any more UFO hearings. Next on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear.
I mean, people probably don't know who Mike Turner is. We need to make clear who he is. He's the representative from Ohio, where Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is, and he is bought and paid for by all 12 of the major aerospace manufacturers and a bunch of others. And he's the chairman of the House Select Committee on Intelligence. He has all the power it would take to stop this.
Bob, let's save that for the show.
Oh, we're going to. We're gonna put it out everywhere
during the show. Bring that juice, Science Bob. All right, I want you to pour that juice all.
I'm going to pour it all over the place and get people to write their congressman.
I like this comment from Alex, listening in on LinkedIn. The American science have still so many prejudices if you contrast with the European. See the models of CRNS and GPAN in France. They are decades ahead of us.
That's the reason I'm working with Sky 360 is it's European led. The leaders in Austria. It's people are all over the world. We don't need to be U.S. centric because this phenomenon is not U.S. centric.
It's true.
We want to give a shout out to Darger family in the chat room from Seattle. Welcome to SOR chat. And Alex, thank you for joining us. If you want to join the major conversation, join us on YouTube. But we're glad you're listening in on LinkedIn. Thank you very much. And who else has joined us here? Part two, nice to see you. And let's see, who else are we got here? I apologize for being stuffed up still, guys. I don't know what that's about, Doug Shelby. It's a new Facebook thing. Getting invited to the SOR chat during the day. Human Carl joining in on the super chats there. Thank you, Human Carl, for the love and support, my man. We love Human Carl around here. All right. We're caught up in people. And how many autographs has Xander signed so far, Bob?
I don't know, but he's getting really popular.
Mark Sanchez, how's your Hawaiian shirt collection going? Aaron Heisner, good to see you. Guy Calgary, bonjour. You know, I was when I was in Whistler a couple weeks ago, I drove by those ski jumping hills. Have you ever seen those up close? Like where they like where the guys are on two skis and then they race down that hill and go flying. I was looking at them, okay, and I was maybe 200 yards away from them. I would never do that.
Oh, the giant slalom.
Yeah, no, not the slalom, Bob. You know, where you stand up in this booth and then you stand up on your skis and you go racing down this hill and then
my favorite sports commercial of all time is ABC called
Wide World of
commercial.
Sports.
Wide World of Sports, where the guy falls off the end of the ramp.
The agony of defeat.
The agony of defeat, part of the falling off the ramp. I remember it to this day.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at these ski jumps and I'm thinking, my God, I would never do that. Like, how insane do you have to be to do that?
They love it.
I don't know. All right, everybody. Book in your calendar, Katie Page, Science Bob, Marquise, and the rest of you. May 10th through 12th, 2024, in Reno, Nevada. The third annual SOR fan party. It will be at the Silver Reef Casino. We're lining it up now. Kira she's going on holidays here for a couple weeks. When we get back, she's going to be going hardcore at getting everything booked up and everything. But I want you to put it in your calendar. May 10th to 12th, 2024, the 3rd annual SOR fan party. We know Science Bob, Lala, and Katie are going to be there. We know that Brian Bowden and the Crypto Guru are going to be there. We know the SOR team is going to be there. My beard is going to be there. It's coming in on a limousine. Okay. Many others. You know, Geraldine Orozco is going to be there. Melinda Leslie is going to be there. And Catherine Jones, Mama Catherine, mwah, to you. You better be there because I'm partying with you, young lady. I am partying with you. Derek Galloway.
She was a hoot.
Oh, I love her. I love her. Big thank you to Deb, W. Decker, Bob, and Human Carl for the super chats. And our SOR Space Travelers Club is open on Patreon. Find the link below. Here we go, guys. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, all of our archives are always free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You can also support SOR by joining our Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Now, the roundtable continues with author, researcher, MUFON Colorado director, Katie Page, from After Hours, Marquise Williams, scientist, Bob McGuire, and intuitive la 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 la. Right. And just a few days ago, at the first debate for the Republican nomination for president, and I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or Libertarian or heaven forbid you support Justin Trudeau. Okay, I don't really care what your political affiliation is, but the UFO question came up. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about with this. Marquise, we're going to start with you on this one. Okay. Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey gets asked the UFO question. And as soon as he's asked, he goes, the UFO question? Come on, man. And then the audience starts laughing. The journalist starts laughing. And then the Governor Christie says, you know, I expect more from a lady from New Jersey than the UFO question. Marquise, when you heard that and then heard him dodge the question that there's no such thing as Martians, this has nothing to do with Martians or UFOs, what was your thoughts?
Honestly, it's very simple. I had one thought, and that is that the stigma still continues. So, yeah, that's it. That's literally all. I mean, what more is there to say?
Right.
Okay.
You sound disappointed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was not expecting anything better. I haven't heard from him, Chris Christie, at all in this entire conversation since the beginning of the hearings, even before that. So why would I expect anything from him, unless, of course, his base is, gonna take to that, which we haven't had any evidence to show that the majority of the Republican base is even concerned. Some of them are. I know that some of the UFO community at large is Republican, but that's a very small portion of the American population, and those are not the people that are making decisions. It's the larger population that are making decisions, and they're mostly, not to bring up religion, but they're religious. They're not into the kind of things that are affecting our world in that way. So I wasn't expecting anything different.
Now, Science Bob, I know you're very political. You are a very, very proud Democrat, probably the only guy I know who's had the opportunity to pull up Joe Biden's socks. So, I mean, politics affiliation aside, he dodged the question. He made fun of the question. The audience laughed. And like Marquis said, the stigma is still very real with everything. I mean, your thoughts on how that went?
Well, after months of hearing and testimony by naval pilots and formation of UAPTF and then Arrow, and then testimony before Congress by Grush and two Navy pilots, and the worldwide news that made all over the place. I don't understand why we're still not a little further along than Chris Christie going, oh, a UFO. I thought we were a little bit beyond that, but apparently we're not. And so, what's that?
I thought it was a sad answer.
It was horrible. It wasn't just sad. It was awful. Especially, it means he's not familiar with what's been going on, or he's unfamiliar with a bill that's passed the Senate with a huge bipartisan vote to break the door wide open on this stuff.
Paula, what was your thoughts?
I honestly think that maybe he's told to say something like that so that he doesn't have to slip up and say anything he shouldn't or just mess up in any way. I think a lot of them are told to keep their mouth shut and turn it into a joke.
They have handlers.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Every person in politics has their PR person and their personal assistant always with them. So when you watch a politician walking through, doesn't matter whether it's the mayor or a congressperson or a senator, the first two people behind them are always their assistant and their PR person. That's the truth. Outside of their family, wife, husband, children, whatever it may be. So Katie Page, let's get your opinion on Chris Christie making fun of this subject publicly and listening to the crowd absolutely laugh it off.
Yeah, disrespect. He's being disrespectful of our military men and women who have served this country. Doesn't matter what party, what you believe in. That is disrespect for people who are taking this topic very seriously, who have spent decades researching this, who are risking their careers, their families, their reputations to come and speak their truth. And he has the nerve to be disrespectful like that to everybody. So it's just awful.
Here's the other thing that caught me off guard regarding this. Number two, after the question was asked to Chris Christie, none of the other panelists were asked the UFO question. It was immediately thrown in the garbage. And yet here's Ron DeSantis from Florida sitting there, and who are his two biggest financial backers? Robert Bigelow, the former owner of Bigelow Aerospace, or the former owner of Skinwalker Ranch and owner of Bigelow Aerospace, loves his UFOs. His logo is an alien gray head. And the money man behind the Enigma Labs, Peter Thiel, who's a defense contractor and one of the founders of PayPal. I was surprised that they dropped the question. If anybody should have got that question, Marquise, it should have been Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, that would have been probably a much better response. I think. I still think that Ron DeSantis is focused on, first of all, dodging. Again, if we're going to get political, he's dodging Trump, who's just wiping the floor with him, and then of course he's also trying to avoid a lot of the backlash for some of his policies that are hurting Florida. That are ideologically aligned with his political, people, but they do not align with the general population. So I think that he's dealing with a lot of other issues. He has to be very careful about what he talks about. I do not think he would have answered that much better than what Chris Christie did. To be totally honest, I mean, if you look at it objectively, I think it would have been pretty much the same or similar.
Were you shocked, Marquise, though, that they dropped the question so fast?
No, not at all. Not at all. Again, like I said, I think that it's no different than what happened in the debates. I believe it was in like the 90s, whenever they brought this question up before, and that literally it cost, I can't remember who it was now. It cost him the entire presidential race after that debate.
Percentage.
Thank you. It cost him the entire the election. He was never going to win after that. It was over. Now we have a public conversation about it. There's legislation that's being pushed forth, involving using words like non-human intelligence. And still to this day, when it comes to the general conversation in the public view, it's still stigmatized. And the reason for that is because the institutions that are responsible for creating and shaping the public consciousness are still perpetuating that stigma. Sorry for the word salad, but the bottom line is that NASA, the military, and of course, the president isn't speaking about this in an explicit way. Either way, he's not saying anything explicit. By not saying anything, it speaks volumes to the people that are watching. And so the general consciousness is still the same. It's not being persuaded. The only thing that I see happening is that we are strengthening our resolve because we're seeing movement happen. But most people are still looking at this saying, I don't really see any real change. The zeitgeist is still stagnant, in my opinion.
All right, Katie, let's get to you here in regards to, the former owner of Skinwalker Ranch, Bob Bigelow, and Peter Thiel, who's worth about $8 billion plus, has a U.S. defense contract. He's put in between $5 and $8 million into UFO research to set up the Enigma labs. That is an enigma of their own. I mean, there is UFO support behind this question. And were you surprised that they dropped the question and didn't go after DeSantis about this? Because I think it would have been very interesting to see how he dodged that question, like Marquis said. So that's question number one for you. And then question number two is, do you expect the UFO question to keep coming up as we get closer to the actual election run?
Number one, I wasn't surprised that the question was dropped so easily. No, but that being said, I look towards, not to age myself here, but the younger generations coming in are much more open to these types of phenomenon than we ever were in my generation. And I truly believe that first of all, I think it's almost as if, at least with my adult kids, they almost don't even question that there's life out there in the universe anymore. It's almost like, of course there is. It's so vast. It's sort of this well-accepted premise now that there is life outside. Whether it's visiting our planet, that's a whole other question. But I don't think the younger generations are going to let this issue rest. And I also think, you're right, money, liability, I think that they've been covering for so many decades. Not only that, but in science, Bob knows, and all these black access projects that have affected many people. People have died, lost their lives, and they're going to cover this till the bitter end. They're not going to let this see the light of day because there's too much liability behind it. So, but I don't think the younger generation is just going to sit back and not keep pushing for it.
Anybody want to respond?
Recent statistics backs Katie up all the way to the hilt. That people under 25, if they were the only people that voted, there would be a dramatically different Congress and presidency in the United States. It would you wouldn't recognize it for what it was. And there's a reason that one or more parties are trying to do everything they can to keep the under 25 people from voting. But they're going to grow up and they're going to vote and they're going to have it their way, and they want answers and they want certain things done a certain way that are now not being done.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I will agree with that. I think that the younger generation is. I mean, I engage with a lot of those people, right? I just, when it comes to the decision makers of our time at the moment, I do see some, at least, like I said, the public conversations is important. What I think is troubling is, to be totally honest here in this conversation, I know that I'm the odd man out here usually. I think that there's a problem with us fighting against whistleblowers. I don't understand why we're fighting against people that are confirming what we believe for 80 freaking years. They're telling us, yeah, you're right. They're telling us, yeah, all those things you said are in the skies. Yeah, they're not human. They're telling us, oh yeah, those events that we told that have been hidden from you by the government that we used to work for, but now we're fighting against. Yeah, you're right, and we're fighting against these people. It's insanity. And I think that if when you talk about evidence and data and science, Well, boots on the ground is extremely important. But if we're gonna, the people that have seen the raw data, that have looked at the type of equipment that can view a speck of dust on the moon, and we're saying, I don't trust the guys that are leaving those programs and telling us what they've seen, risking their career in life. We're saying we shouldn't trust them because they're a part of the program. That is literally the premise of being a whistleblower, is because they're trying to, they see something that you have always known is true, and they're trying to tell you. So in my opinion, I think it's pure insanity. I think the UFO community will eat itself alive if we don't at least see this from the proper perspective. And that is at the groundwork. You talk about, boots on the ground. The whistleblowers are the key to the raw data.
I think you're right. But I mean, the way people are talking right now, coming out of that presidential debate for the Republican Party, who, to Mike Turner, Science Bob, who came out and said, we don't need any more UFO hearings. This is making our defense and our intelligence agencies look really stupid. I'm paraphrasing there, but he literally came out saying, that's it. And then, in his words, he gives a major shot to David Grush, the whistleblower who came out. I mean, what do you know about Mike Turner?
Okay, so Mike Turner is the representative from Ohio. He has a very powerful position in this entire conversation. He is the chairman of the House Select Committee on Intelligence. So he's one of those people that could put a roadblock in front of the National Defense Authorization Act, which will force UFO data out into the public. Okay, so he is being largely supported. You go look at his PACs and his contributors, and they are Lockheed Martin and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is in his district, and you almost got the quote right. The quote is, he went to Comer, who is the head of the oversight committee, and he told Comer, because Burchett can't keep his mouth shut, thank goodness, he told Comer, we cannot continue to have these hearings. We're going to embarrass and really harm our military. And I think, look, Turner knows what we here on this channel know, which 99.999% of the people in the United States and the world don't know. And that is, people have been harmed, they've been crushed, they've been buried, they've had their careers and lives ruined. And people keep saying, these people, they couldn't keep a secret like that. And it really angers me, because the secret has not been kept. It has leaked out continuously since the day Harry Truman put together and founded the national security state in the 1950s. It's leaked continuously. But what they do is they stomp on, they make fun of, they buy off newspapers, they write articles, they go to Hollywood and make crazy movies about aliens coming from Planet 9 with Bela Lugosi playing a Dracula, and it just makes fools of it. They have done the most brilliant disinformation, public policy of alteration, public view alteration of the entire topic for 80 years. And we are still trying to overcome that. But you know, Marquise knows, Katie knows, the two of us know, we knew everything David Grush said before he said it. I keep trying to tell people that, and they keep going, what? I says, all of this has been known for decades, but they've covered it up with the most unbelievable misinformation, disinformation, public management program that's ever been put together.
I think that's brilliantly said, because here's one of the big issues that I saw with it, okay, is the fact that here's this gentleman, like you said, coming from next door to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where it's rumored that they have had alien bodies and technology since the days of Roswell hidden underground there. And I just think that when we see this, and we've said it numerous times on the show, that this is really a public battle, a public feud right now going on between a lot of elected officials who want this subject out, like Burchett, like Matt Gaetz, like Ron DeSantis or Marco Rubio or Mark Warner, AOC, who are really taking this seriously, and the old guard that wants to protect the military-industrial complex. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is the reason why the military-industrial complex companies like Lockheed or Raytheon or Boeing, they have buildings and manufacturing sites set up in multiple states. So that way they spread it out, and that way every state gets jobs, everybody stays happy. But when you piss them off, they move those jobs. And if you're not going to support what they're doing, those all of a sudden those 1,200 jobs that are building M1A1 Abrams tanks that are outdated from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that contract now goes somewhere else. Or whoever makes the spigots that holds the tires together for F-35s, that contract goes somewhere else. And I think this is the game we are starting to see unfold, because these agencies who all have buildings at Wright-Patterson, they all have buildings at Area 51 and other secure bases. They don't want their new toys getting out into the public eyes. They're going to hide that it's Russia or China, but they want the greed for themselves. This has nothing to do with UFOs. It has everything to do with greed and holding control. Am I right on that, Bob? Or am I just spouting a bunch of spew?
No, let's just assume that 25% of all the stories we've heard for years and years are true. Free energy, instantaneous travel, just those handful of things. Let's suppose there's truth to some of it. It will utterly wreck, utterly destroy most of the wealth in the world if those things are true. And they're going to fight all they can fight to keep that from happening, because that wealth is concentrated into 0.1% of the hands in the world, and they control all of us by keeping us economically under their boot. And so if I can power my house and go wherever I want, and I never have to pay a dime to anyone to do it, then they don't control me anymore. I mean, it's just the way it is. That's number one. Number two, they committed crimes keeping this stuff covered up. They don't want that known because they feel they'll never get out from under. I mean, just look what would happen when we learned about the Bay of Pigs and a few other things. The CIA almost ceased operation after Richard Nixon and the Church Commission. That's where we got oversight, which they have slowly but surely learned how to undo. Okay, so and now they're doing their UFO program with no oversight through some kind of mechanism, which Grush is trying to tell Congress how it works. And what did they do? They removed his security clearance so he can't tell them anything. I mean, it's just the battle goes on. We need to win because we need the truth.
Well, let's take a look at you, Marquise, and see what you have to say about, Mike Turner's words. I mean, is he, going to be now the focal point in politics that tries to take this story down? We got 90 seconds.
I don't think he's going to be able to take the conversation down. I think that the resistance is obvious. I think to Bob's point, there's this infighting, if you will, of war. There's a conflict, but I do not think at all he'll be able to stop what's the public conversation that's happening now. The question is, will they be able to, through legislation, fight back, or I should say through obfuscating legislation and stopping it, stonewalling, as they've been saying? Will they be able to do that? We will have to wait and see.
It's going to be interesting. Lala, your thoughts on this?
I personally think that there's a part of them that can't say anything because maybe it's another being in charge beyond what we're told, Some people think reptilians are in charge of the government, and that's why they kind of...
I didn't say it.
I didn't say conspiracy. I do.
It's possible. I mean, I've always thought that there's something else doing it, so... She said it, though. I didn't say it.
Well, when we return from the break here at the top of the hour, Katie Page, I'm going to get your opinion on Mike Turner and the thoughts about reptilians in the White House, according to Bob. But, and we're going to change the topic up for a little bit. and calm it down for a little bit, because I got asked to speak at a Bigfoot conference, but I was already forewarned about the woo. How much woo is too much woo? And more with our panel, Marquise Williams from the After Hours Show, Science Bob and Lala Bright, Intuitive, and Colorado MUFON's Katie Page on the round table tonight. Hour 2 is next. Good show so far.
Man,
It's
if
all-
you can't talk about woo at a Bigfoot conference, what's the point? Because everybody I know that gathers any real data knows they're walking in and out of portals.
Well, I mean, there's obviously something going on that's not just a physical phenomena.
David
Everybody stays
Paulides
conscious.
is talking about UFOs and portals being involved. He's finally come out in the open.
What does your note say on your guitar, Dave?
Oh, I mean,
That's actually a good question. So back on February 25th, 2022, one of our European listeners, he went by Ethereal Aura, came into the chat room. He had been in our chat room for about a year, and he had major health issues. So he decided to take government-assisted suicide. Okay. And that night he came to say goodbye, and he spent an hour with us. And he said, I'm no longer going to be on this planet in 7 hours.
Wow.
And so I put that sticker there for him, this sticky note on the guitar. And I said, when you get to the other side, when you're ready, come back and move it.
okay, so let me tell you what we saw at the beginning of the program. We saw Lala and I saw a white orb fly right in front of it.
Yeah.
So I want people to go back and look at the video. A white
scrub that.
orb flew right in front of it.
The chat will scrub that.
Originally, the sticker was like this.
And
And
it's
then
moved.
one day it went like that. And so that's why I keep it there, is because Ethereal Aura came into the chat room and he moved it, or it came into my studio and moved it. And it happened on air. We actually have tape of it. I wish I could remember. It was like 3 months after he passed. It took him 3 months.
Well, he's still visiting.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm telling you,
That's
that orb
powerful.
was visible.
Yeah, so thank you for actually asking, because it is one of the great stories of Spaced Out Radio. And
I love that you're doing that. Yeah, it's an experiment.
right there, that is the Dirty Filth cartoon of Butch Witkowski after he passed. Where, yeah, so if you listen to the end of the show when I say goodnight and sign off YouTube, you'll hear Butch's voice with that picture on there, basically saying, hey, he's saying, I forget what he says. You know, I hear it so much and yet I forget. It's impossible. But basically saying, if you need bail money, call me, right? And so that picture there is at the end, and yeah. And sometimes you can feel Butch in here. That's kind of cool on
The
that.
Lala's first reading for Dave, Butch came by.
Yeah, that was interesting energy.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, so let's just say hello to Nina Williams, and who else has jumped in here? Applesauce is back. How are you, Applesauce? I think we're caught up on people. And la 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 la. Right. Thank you for the chat, super chat there. Thank you for the bat there, Greg. Thank you very much. I appreciate the love and support all the way from Thailand, man. Thank you very much. I think I got you on the board too, Greg. I'm pretty positive I do. Bears Eat Beats, how you been doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Hey, we want to say thank you to Deb W. Decker, Bob, Human Carl, Vaughn, Louie, Pam H., Kevin, right, and Greg from Thailand for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. And oh, hey, Clam, how you doing? And we want to say a big thank you as well to Forrest Louie, who is the latest space traveler. Yeah, if you want to become a space traveler, all you got to do is head on over to Patreon. The link is in the description below of this show. Click on it. It'll take you right there. You get to choose whatever you want. And so Forrest Louis getting his shout out. Cat Chaser, thank you for the love and support every night. We appreciate it, my dear. And your claws are always good with me. Don't forget you can shop at spacedoutradio.com. I will be off next week. But don't worry, never fear. The Cryptid Huntress and Marquise and Nicole will be here for the weekend shows, the Off the Trails, followed by After Hours, which is one hell of a great show. By the way, Marquise, you guys are doing great. You know, you're averaging about 188 to 190 listeners a nightly lately. That's fantastic. It really is. Good job, guys.
Yeah, it's great to have a co-host. So thank you, because you brought her to the team. So.
Well, it's because your beautiful hair that she accepted.
Right, I bet.
All right. Hey, Yumi doll, welcome back. Welcome back. And here we go with the next hour, everybody.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. And on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Abnegate. Abnegate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and join the Space Travelers Club on Patreon. All right, we continue with our panel here. Katie Page from MUFON, Colorado. From After Hours, Marquise Williams. Science Bob is here along with his lovely companion girlfriend, the lovely and talented, intuitive Lala Bright. And Katie, I wanted to get to your opinion on Mike Turner coming out saying, you know what, maybe we don't need any more UFO hearings anymore. Maybe it's time to push them aside. And how can we trust a whistleblower who's seen nothing, really taking a shot at David Grush? What's your thoughts on this, Katie?
Oh my goodness. We don't need any more hearings. We need a lot more. But I don't know. At the same time, I was going to say something. So I love these deathbed confessions. We have these contract workers, and I stumbled across one. Oh gosh, I guess it was right after COVID let loose, after we had the restrictions lifted. I went to Canyon City and met with, by accident, by the way, a higher up with General Electric. So, right, we all know that these contract companies are privy to this information because we can't do FOIA requests to them, right? We can't FOIA General Electric. And we ended up having an hour and a half long conversation. He's a retired high up who basically told us we're 40 plus years more advanced than the general public knows, and talked about the back engineering of these metamaterials and so forth and so on. And so the more of these people we get banding together, they can't ignore us anymore, and they're going to have more hearings. I mean, it just is what it is. And to Marquis' point, we can't be tearing down these people who are risking everything to come forward. It's ridiculous.
No, I don't think we can either. But here's the thing: where there's smoke, there's fire.
Mhm.
And when we have people like Mike Turner who have a lot of pull in DC due to his positions, it's not going to be long before other people start falling to his side rather than the UFO side. I mean, do you see that happening, Katie?
Mm-mm. No, no, I don't think there's putting this cat back in the bag. People want to know. People are interested, and they can't stop that. I always say it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It's gaining momentum, and whether they like it or not, it's going to continue to gain momentum. So, it's just going to be a lot of push pull, fighting, push pull, and we're just going to have to bear with it and just ride it out. And hopefully, eventually, it's going to get to a point where they can't control the narrative anymore, like they're so desperately trying to do. I mean, we can all see the game they're playing. And that's the beauty of it. I think people are starting to wake up to the game.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, they're waking up to the game. I just think that there's not enough of them yet have waken up to the game. If when it gets to be enough, we're going to fall off the cliff. But we got to get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I gotta say, there's a recently famous quote by Timothy Alberino. And he was on a show a couple weeks ago. I can't say the word, but he was talking to the UFO community. He's like, listen, we have all these whistleblowers coming forward. We got the inspector general involved with this conversation. We've got, again, legislation that has non-human intelligence, and we're rejecting all this stuff because of the deep state this, deep state that. The issue is that people are going full R word. He said, you never go full R word. And so I don't want to say it on you. I don't want to get you in trouble here, but it was the greatest quote of all time, because that's when it comes to conspiracies, we all believe in conspiracies, and conspiracies doesn't mean fake or fabricated. It means there's something deeper that's being hidden from the public. And yet people are taking the framework of conspiracy and they're expanding it so far beyond what it should be that nothing can be trusted unless they see it with their own eyes. And that is literally the position of every debunker that's ever existed. So we are in essence transforming into the enemy that we have been resisting for so long.
Why do you think the CIA invented the phrase conspiracy theory and made it popular? They invented it.
Very true. Very true. All right, let's switch topics and calm it down a little bit here in a different way. And let's talk about the woo. All right? Let's talk about the woo and get into this, because I was offered a position to speak at a Bigfoot conference next year. And it's funny, I've never spoken at a Bigfoot conference, and next year allegedly I'm speaking at, or apparently I'm speaking at two, which has kind of caught me off guard because I've always wanted to speak at one, because I have opinions. I've seen the big creature. It's pretty awesome. And after this person, who I'm going to keep his name out of it because he's a very good guy. Very good guy. But after the conversation, he goes, just make sure that you guys don't bring a lot of that woo-woo stuff to the table, because we don't do that woo around here. And I went, who, me? Me woo? Woo me?
I hate that word.
All right. So here I'm thinking, we don't know what Bigfoot is. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know its lineage. We don't know if it's from here and it's an ancestor of the monkeys or aliens or Gigantopithecus. And people are having weird encounters where all of a sudden they're seeing this creature vanish. They're seeing UFOs right afterwards. And I just think you can't have one without the other. It's like having a one-course meal of potatoes, but saying you're having steak for dinner. Now, Science Bob, I know that, a few years ago you were very anti-woo, but life has changed your opinion on it. I want to get you to start here on this one.
So, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, whatever you want to call it, is in every culture around the world. And now we have covered the skies and all sorts of other things with cameras, videos, drones, etc. And though these things are seen constantly, we can't find out where they live and follow them back home. That just says to you it's completely anomalous. There's no other explanation for why we can't track them. Then they're completely anomalous. It's just the only thing. Now you have to accept that 100,000 people saying they've seen a Sasquatch is real. I mean, let's just suppose 1,000 of them are real, and we have all these groups out looking for them and constantly seeing them, getting them on video or on photo, and then they move off and quickly disappear. How? It's something anomalous. You got to have some woo.
Lala Bright, you like the woo. You live in the woo daily.
Yeah.
When you hear that, if you got offered to speak at a conference but weren't allowed to talk about the woo, would you go?
I mean, what would I talk about? Well, somebody just said, they said the woo is what makes it the best part. It's entertaining, it's fun, it's interesting, it's a mystery because we don't know what it is. It is part of woo. You can't take that out of it because then it isn't Bigfoot anymore. You know what I mean? It's not,
totally agree.
It doesn't make sense.
You're right. It doesn't make sense at all. I guess the problem that I have with it, and it's not just about the woo, it's the fact that there are so many people truly out there who are willing to disparage other people's experiences and knowledge that they have gained from studying the subject just because it doesn't fit in with their personal opinion.
Right.
You just had an orb fly right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Cool. Cool. So
it was big.
It was bright.
Yeah.
So let's get to you, Marquise, on this one. Okay. All right. Because I know that you are someone who is you're an experiencer. You are someone who is gaining knowledge daily on the people that you're talking to. How do we, or let me rephrase that. How do we judge a subject when we're judging it on opinion and not scientific fact?
I mean, when it comes to opinion, then that's a little bit more confusing and convoluted. It can be convoluted because opinion can have the appearance of intelligence when really it's just convoluted. It's unnecessarily, complex when it doesn't have to be. I think what I think is important is witness testimony is important, but it needs to be obviously there needs to be investigations done. I think when it comes to boots on the ground that you mentioned before, it's important for us to have conversations with people that have woo experiences and respect that person and their experiences. And when you get enough data on that, which by the way, there is a ton of it. There are researchers that have been studying, for example, the abduction phenomena, which as an experience of myself or abductee, whatever you want to call it, there is a lot of information and data by scientists, therapists, psychologists on the abduction phenomena alone. So much so that it's overwhelmingly obvious that there's something happening here. I think that it's interesting that when we combine the abduction experience that references these beings that are being seen that have big heads and big black eyes. We talk about the children in Africa where they saw the entire school sees these beings, their craft. People see them in their bedroom. They're being brought on board these craft. And then you hear whistleblowers saying they're seeing craft that abductees have been seeing for decades. I believe that we're missing a big piece of the puzzle if we're going to say that the woo isn't really essential to this puzzle here. It is the most important picture because we have the physical, which is very scarce, and then we have the data. on the experiencer phenomena, which is, oh my gosh, it's astronomical. There is a massive amount of data that's telling us something is there. I think that when it comes to science, if we're looking at something that you can touch, visceral, yeah, it's there, but you got to use all of the data to get a full picture of what's going on here. And if you exclude that, well, then you just have a partial fractured picture. You'll never fully understand what's going on.
Wonderful answer. Wonderful answer.
Yes.
Katie Page, let's get your thoughts on this.
It's a fine line, isn't it? And, you know, I don't want to admit it, but I have full-on conversations with myself about this very topic because as an experiencer and somebody who had all these high strangest things on this ranch, like Skinwalker Ranch, and also being part of MUFON and a state director, you know, MUFON had that whole thing about, well, we're nuts and bolts organization, we're a science organization. I very much appreciate the science. I appreciate the nuts and bolts, but I've also experienced the woo. And so it's this delicate fine line that you have to balance. And as a researcher, I value being taken seriously, but at the same time, and I've experienced a lot of high strangeness, high woo stuff. So, you know, it's a fine line that we have to walk. And I really admire people who are just like, here's all of it, like, wow, this is all of this stuff. and the more people you talk to and the more you research and the more you know, the more open to the woo you become, because so many people experience it. And you can't have the nuts and bolts science without the woo. You, just like Marquis said, you have to have both because it's all part of it. It's all part of what's happening. And it would be very biased and unscientific to exclude the woo out of that.
I think part of the issue is there is this common theme that goes into UFOs, Bigfoot and cryptids, as well as the paranormal, where everybody who has not completed a science program since high school all of a sudden thinks they're a scientist conducting experimentation on this phenomena, even though they haven't done a real scientific experiment since probably grade 10 or 11, if not earlier. And as a scientist, Science Bob, when you see people conducting opinion over science, how do we take the field seriously when they are not keeping an open mind, as science is the most open-minded thing you have on this planet?
Oh, I'm going to disagree with you. I think there's nothing more closed-minded than a scientist like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He has 1,000 pieces of evidence a year available to him. He's just not going to look. He simply refuses to look. So I think we're too hard on ourselves. I think science and the scientific method is being used as a weapon against us. We need right now, while we're still just doing observational science, which means gathering data so we can figure something out, what we need to decide on is we're in a court of law. All we need to do is prove it beyond a reasonable doubt to continue our efforts. Okay, so Jacques Vallée helped found the internet. Jacques Vallée helped introduce databases into science. Where? At Project Blue Book. And he wrote a book called Passport to Magonia.
Oh my, you literally
and
stole
Passport to Magonia is, this thing is weird. It's as weird as it can be. Every culture has their own form of it. It's all kind of something like this, but it takes the form of fairies and elves and this and that. And we can't figure it out, but we got to say it's something weird. And that's basically, I've just given you a synopsis of Jacques Vallée's career. He's been a Fortean, influenced by John Keel since he was young. And he realizes that this stuff is weird. We just need to keep collecting evidence until something falls into place. And the thing that I think is going to have to fall into place is we are going to have to marry consciousness to a new formulation of our science, where Because I don't want people worship science, but I'm going to tell you, 95 to 97% of the universe, we don't have a clue what it is. We don't even know how it works. 95% of the energy and 3/4 of the mass of the universe, we can't tell you what it is or how it works. So, and part of it, and all we can see is we can observe what they're doing. Galaxies rotate too fast. The universe is expanding so fast and it's accelerating. We don't have zero theories for how that works. None at all. So science is a thing that doesn't need to be worshipped. It needs to be thought of if you want to have evidence and that you can act on to produce technology later on. You need science to give you some physics so you can produce technology by engineering. But in order to collect the kind of data we need to collect to convince enough people that it requires a bigger effort, all we need to do is beyond a reasonable doubt. We don't need ironclad 5 sigma proof. We need an idea that we can test. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people don't like Skinwalker Ranch television shows. Get over it. So Travis Taylor went to Utah, and he and the people behind him, the UAPTF people behind him, Jay and others who sent him out there or asked him to go or told him to keep quiet. He has brought science out there, and he and Eric Bard are like this, and they have now done science. Now, let me tell you, I'll give you one example and I'll shut up. They found that if they did things that stirred up the anomaly at Skinwalker, at Katie's home ranch, and the other ranch in Colorado, and the one in Sedona, Arizona, and the one in Massachusetts, and anywhere near Chris Bledsoe, 1.6 gigahertz goes off. So guess what that is, Dave? That's repeatable. If it's repeatable, we can do science. That means we can figure out what stimulates it. If we figure out what stimulates it and what the 1.6 gigahertz then stimulates, like opening a portal or bringing a craft, which it seems to do every one of these places, now we can do repeatable science. But it took forever to get here. And it took a serious owner with some serious backing and a serious scientist or two to get involved to say, okay, I'm not going to disbelieve. I'm just going to see what I can find. And they kept going for 3.5 years until they found stuff. We need to take that attitude.
Bob, the issue that I have is there's a lot of people who are gaining false credibility when they don't know what the hell science is. They just use the words that they're going to be scientific, that because they're so science, there is absolutely no way that Sasquatch can be anything but a earthly creature and a hominid from here, whether he comes from man, whether he comes from Gigantopithecus, whether he's part of the missing link to the monkey theories through evolution. That's the problem.
But you're correct that that's a problem. But the people who claim that have zero evidence. They don't have any hair. They don't have any DNA. They have nothing with which they can relate it to an ape. They just don't. All they can say is it's strange.
All I could tell you is I was floored when I was out there with the film crew, and this was like whiteout blizzard conditions. I'm jumping over, and I was in front of everybody because they wanted me to take them to the spot where I had seen this disappearing box, and the snow's coming down so fast. It's like, so I'm jumping over a barbed wire fence or climbing over the barbed wire fence. I have my headlamp on. And there were those tracks that just came out of nowhere. It was bipedal. It was not a deer. It wasn't an elk. It looked like this stride of possibly a Sasquatch. Then it disappeared and then showed up again, then disappeared. What was that? That was on film, and I was thrilled to death that they caught that evidence, because that was not faked. I mean, I was like, holy cow! And the more they collect that, yeah.
And without Katie and any of the other people, they went back out to the edge of the property and they saw something over the top of the trees with eyes that were reflecting their lights back at them. I mean,
It's
they
crazy
found
stuff.
stuff. And so we need to just say, this stuff is weird. We need to keep working till we figure it out.
And they're
All
still
right, guys.
analyzing. Yeah.
All right, Katie Page from MUFON, Colorado. From After Hours, we have Marquise Williams, Lala Bright, Intuitive, Science Bob, as the roundtable continues right after this. Where are we going? I don't know yet. We'll let you know when we return to the roundtable on Spaced Out Radio. Strong stuff so far, guys.
When we know where we're going, we'll let you know.
I like that.
I was driving. So long as I'm driving, I'm good.
Oh yeah.
Katie and I went to John Lear's funeral. I have to tell you, I was just thinking about that when I saw her come on, and I really regret he's not alive to see all this.
Yeah.
I was playing poker.
I was thinking about that earlier today, Bob, about John Lear's funeral. Yeah.
I'll be right back, guys. You guys chat away.
Yeah, it is a shame. It's a shame that a lot of people aren't here to see. There's a lot of people throughout history that aren't here to see.
We've lost so many good.
Yeah.
Stanton Friedman. Can you imagine the guy that blew Roswell open? Not here to see it all happen.
Yeah. I will. I think it's. I'm just happy personally that like we are seeing. I can't believe I'm seeing in my lifetime. You know, David Grush to me. I mean, even Elizondo to me was like a big wow moment for me. But seeing David Grush in on under oath. Again, that was like, whoa, like this is a big deal. Finding out who this guy was, who he worked for, where he worked, what he had access to, and then seeing the resistance. Like we get to witness this in real. This isn't like behind closed doors. This is happening in the public view. Which
Jim Simivan was senior leadership in the clandestine service for the Central Intelligence Agency. And he goes on a video and in an interview, and he says, "We have living with us here on this planet, something on this effing planet with us that's been here longer than we have."
Yeah.
I mean,
longer than that's big. Yeah,
that's big. I mean,
well,
we need to figure out how to corral, but we have to break down the dam that's keeping the secrets hidden. We also have to stop fighting against. You know, Katie mentioned this too, but we got to stop fighting with ourselves, and we have to stop. You know, again, the whistleblower said, "Man, I'm afraid." I mean, Bob Lazar literally came out with a video. I told you so. But the funny thing is, he was asked by Jeremy Corbell if he'd come back out again, if he'd testify, and he said, "F no." Look how they treated me.
Right.
And you know, if you look at and this has really been bothering me a lot lately. I almost like at one point I felt like giving up. Because I saw what was happening in the UFO community, which is the strong. We need to really stick together here. I didn't, obviously. I feel like it's my responsibility. I can't. But I really felt like, oh my gosh, like what's the point whenever you're telling people, you're confirming to them what's true, and they're like, no, they're all government they're ops. It's all Project Bluebeam.
Ignore them. Ignore them and keep going.
It's hard though.
Yeah, it's a little difficult when it's I mean, I've literally been. My children were brought into conversations on my platforms as an attack towards me for just reporting on these issues, and then having a position where I think that we need to come together and not fight these whistleblowers. People believe that the whistleblowers are the ones keeping the secrets. Well, I don't understand.
This tells you that the secrecy started in the early 1950s has poisoned our culture and its interaction with government.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
We need to lance this boil and get the core out of the heart of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's fighting about whether or not the phenomena is like is good, is it bad? Are they gods? Are they demons? Are they extraterrestrial or interdimensional? There's like real factions that people are like religiously, like Waco, Texas, sticking to these things. And it's scary. You know, I feel like you hear the joke of like drinking the Kool-Aid. I feel like if aliens came down and told them to do it, they would do it. Like they would do it because like there's some scary conversations in the community. And I genuinely worry about us. I worry about the movement. I worry about the community. And I feel like, again, I do feel like it's a responsibility.
I think
For-
what you can afford to do is worry about you.
Really
Yeah.
quick, you guys, I'm gonna head to bed because I have to take my
Okay.
son somewhere in the morning. But I want to say
Aw.
good night to everybody.
Good night, Lala.
Good
Yes,
night, Lala.
Thank you.
We'll see you on Tuesday.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Much love, Lala.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
It was fun. See you later.
Bye bye now. Y'all
Bob
see y'all
said
later.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Y'all come on.
All right. Big thank you tonight to Gizmo, Deb ×2, Louie ×2, Cat Chaser, Greg in Thailand, Lala, Kevin, Pam H, W. Decker, Bob, Carl, Vaughn, and very much appreciate our newest space traveler, Forrest Louie. You could join in by clicking on the link, which is in the chat room or in the YouTube description. And yeah, we'd love to add you. Okay, here we go, everyone. Next half hour. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go once again with the roundtable panel. We had to say goodnight to Lala Bright, but Science Bob is still here from the After Hours Show, Marquise Williams, and Colorado MUFON's Katie Page. And one of the topics I want to get into here, guys, as we get back into the UFO front, is whistleblowers. This is a major, major topic after The Intercept put out an article by reporter Ken Klippenstein that absolutely, I think, broke a lot of journalistic integrity. As a journalist myself, and I've talked to other journalists about this off the record, it was not impressive that he released David Grush's personal medical records, which were in 2014. He battled alcoholism after coming back from Afghanistan, where shortly after his return, his best friend decided to become a statistic, as a lot of veterans do. And we also saw him ask and beg his own wife to take his life because he was suffering from PTSD due to the conditions that he saw in battle. It's a sad state of affairs when you have to pick on someone because of their PTSD and their military career. Now, journalistic rules on that are you never report on someone's private life, especially their personal health, unless it's a story. Let's say, for instance, somebody popular in your town or a movie star or an athlete or a politician announces that they have cancer or that they have dementia or something along those lines. Then you can report on it because that person has given permission. It's one of those things that is supposed to be untouchable. And yet this reporter was tipped off about where to look. He put out a tweet basically saying, good or bad, I want to talk to people who know about David Grush. And somebody allegedly from the intelligence community reached out to him and said, you better check his personal records. This is where you need to look. And he broke the story. Since then, he has been taunting the UFO world on Twitter, calling us a bunch of nutcases and people who are almost cult-like. Now, Marquise, let's start with you on this one, because I know you were very passionate about talking about Ken Klippenstein and his reporting on David Grush. Just your overall thoughts of it.
Well, first of all, I don't think it was helpful that John Greenwald gave him a platform and then didn't push back like a good journalist should do.
Well, John, let me just interrupt you there for a second. John's not a journalist.
He called. Okay. Well, people are telling me all the time he's a journalist. He has been a journalist for 20 years. I mean, that's the argument that I keep hearing whenever I mention his name. Whatever he is, people. He has a lot of influence, and the fact that he gave this man a platform, did not push back, and then essentially told him that he did good work. I mean, you got to look at the video he posted on Twitter. It was very troubling to me because, again, those are the influential figures in the community who people are looking to for guidance on how to see these things. Now, to your point, Dave, I think I really appreciate that you mentioned that a veteran has PTSD due to his time in the military. That should never be used against someone. That is exactly what he did. Even if you just look at it from a social human perspective, the smirk on his face said that that I enjoy, trying to cause a little bit of chaos in the situation. And so, to me, I think we all understand what he did, but I think it's even more telling that he admitted what he did on the Hill. And the Hill, on Breaking Points, they did a fantastic job at pushing back.
Cigar, they ripped him a new one.
They did exactly what you should do as a journalist. And I want to give a round of applause to Cigar and to Crystal Ball for doing exactly what you should do in those situations. Call him out on that.
So for people who didn't read that article, Marquise, break it down for us.
So what he did was he essentially was given information, guidance on where to look on Grush by members of the Department of Defense and members of the intelligence community. He explicitly said this, that I got this, that I was told where to look. And so I use that information to go look for it. And that's what he did. He found out that at one of David Grush's previous homes, his ex-girlfriend, he had told her to, after having a mental breakdown because his friend had called him expressing some depressing thoughts, and right afterwards he deleted himself from existence, and that really messed him up. And so he spiraled into a depression, coupled with his PTSD, and wanted to essentially delete himself from this existence. And he was begging to do so because of this experience. And he got help. He went through recovery. He admitted and is proud that he recovered from that. He wants veterans to know that you can do the same thing. But instead of reporting on it from a holistic perspective, from a wholesome, I should say, perspective, from a humanist perspective, he used a grimy, slimy weasel perspective, where it was to throw in the face of a veteran the consequences of being a person who honored this country and served for the American people. So
I agree with that. But the Hill article that kind of countered this. Could you give us that too?
Well, I mean, the Hill article, again, it pointed out the fact that there was a lot of things in the Hill article, but it pointed out the fact that he did receive that information, guidance from what he said, quoting the intelligence community and the department, members of the Department of Defense, to find out this information on Grush. Now, they also mentioned that it was important for people that if this information was true, it could damage the credibility of a whistleblower. I think that they were trying to be objective, but in essence, what they were doing is, I believe, they were just fortifying the argument that David Grush is not a trustworthy witness. So that's what again, they try to give that balanced perspective, but ultimately, I think that it was damaging. It was just it further damaged the outlook on what's being done here. And it also discouraged other whistleblowers from coming forward.
Yes.
Which is what they're watching. They're watching to see how David Grush is being treated, as has been stated. And after seeing this, I would be surprised to see too many more come forward.
I want to just make one comment before I go to you, Katie, on this. And Marquise, I'm not directing this at you, but I think part of the problem we have in the UFO field is, much like we were just debating that in the Bigfoot world, where everybody is trying to claim that they are conducting scientific experimentation. For some reason in the UFO world, the word journalist is thrown around like candy. Oh, you want to be a journalist? Here's some candy. Throw it in there, and there, you're a journalist. I have personally, over the years, called out fake journalists okay, for lying about their credentials, both on Twitter and on this show, because it's a disgrace to a career that I love. And look, I'm not happy with the way journalism has gone in the mainstream over the last 20 years. It's completely a 180 from what I was taught when I went to journalism school. But the fact that we are calling people who aren't journalists journalists, okay, and that there is a group of people within the UFO community who have just self-titled themselves as journalists when they don't know. Because here's the thing: if John Greenwald, and I like John Greenwald, him and I have had great conversations, and John has never called himself a journalist to me. I've never heard him call himself that. But if he were to, or people are referring to him, John really doesn't know a lot about journalism if he is a journalist by supporting the fact that somebody's personal health records came out. That's not right. Okay, you could use it to build a story, but you never release it. Okay, that's the journalistic way to do that. So much like Bob gets pissed off when people call themselves scientists over opinion, I get upset when people are self titling themselves when they've never worked the beat. They've never worked at a radio station, news station, whether it's online or on television or in a newspaper or whatever. There's a famous one who's helping run the Enigma Labs. He's got his entire career by lying about his resume. Okay. And I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate tag along. So I'm not saying that as a shot at you, Marquis, so don't take it that way. It's about the subject in general that fires me up. Yeah, Marquis.
To be fair, John Greenwald is constantly talking about journalism and journalistic integrity, and especially recently with his conversation with this alleged journalist that we're all, because the dude trolled the entire internet, and John Greenwald thought it was funny and acceptable by telling people that he was let go from his newspaper when he wasn't. And then under that he tweeted in the subtweets, he says, to start a new thing, haha, got you all. He thought he literally trolled the entire internet, the whole world. And John Greenwald, again, he's the one who's been touting himself about what good journalism is. And if you were somebody, even for myself, when I'm being told by other researchers that John Greenwald is a journalist, and as a debate, like they're debating with me about this, and then I'm hearing John Greenwald say, for example, this is good journalistic integrity, and this is good journalistic, and this is just good journalism, you would get the impression that he considers himself a journalist. So to be fair, he may not be saying explicitly, but by implication and through conversation, he is suggesting that he is a journalist.
Well, anybody who takes on somebody's health records without them knowing as good journalism, that it's garbage. It's scoundrelish, and it's not playing fair. And I'm not saying all journalists are good guys. Okay, there's some journalists out there I can't stand, right? But when you're self-titling yourself, when you've never done the job and you don't know the rules and the ethics, that's where I go. And you're defending that, I have an issue with that. I have a big issue with that. Bob, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, two things. I want to make sure that we're talking all the same thing. John Greenwald runs the Black Vault, and Ken, what's his name, is the journalist. And John gave him a forum, but this Ken guy did the crap. But he went on the Hill, and the Hill, the first interview he gave was on the Hill segment on News Nation. So the Hill segment on News Nation interviewed him, and they called him out. They said, were you told this by somebody in the intelligence or Department of Defense? And he went, yes, I was told it by people in both of them. So they both went after Grush. Okay, here's the problem with the coverage. Subsequently to him getting treated for PTSD and alcoholism, and where the sheriff came and remanded him to a psychiatric ward until he calmed down and detoxed, the intelligence community cleared him to go back to work where he worked at the highest level of government for 4 friggin' years. What I want to do is take a sledgehammer to these people. I don't want to be nice to them or talk kindly to them or make a few disparaging remarks. I want to knock his teeth out with a sledgehammer.
In Minecraft.
Allegedly. Allegedly. Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking. And those are the words of Science Bob and not of Spaced Out Radio.
The guy is a scumbag.
But you're right, Bob. I mean, David Grush had the highest clearance that he could possibly have. He was literally breaking down reports for very important people, I believe, including presidents.
You do. If you have a known emotional problem where you are unstable, you do not go and give a private briefing to the president of the United States ever. And he did it regularly.
Yep. After his
incident.
You know, yeah. So
I'm just appalled. I can't get over how appalled I am.
Katie Page, let's get your thoughts on this.
Well, if we look at it, throw a little bit of logic in here. I look at this a little bit differently than most people. Number one, I just want to start out by saying that using somebody's medical records and PTSD against them is just horrific. But number two, isn't it true just from a human standpoint, when we're dealt with some of the most difficult times of our lives? He lost a good friend to suicide. He contemplated suicide. He struggled with alcohol. We all struggle as humans through different phases of our lives. And sometimes our lowest parts of our lives propel us to go do the right thing, the just thing, to become a whistleblower, to speak our truths, because we've just went through this lull. So I look at that and I'm like, well, maybe that's part of the reason he became a whistleblower in the first place. He saw life from a different perspective, so come on, let's put on our logical hats. I mean, unfortunately for us, the Richard Doty's of the world has tainted the waters forever, and we don't know who to trust. And he's trying to do right now, but he didn't do right then. And what if he's still a disinformation officer? And it all gets so muddied. I just take that information, and each individual person has to go out there and judge for themselves and look at the man's record, his history, what he's done, what he's been through, and then judge for yourself.
Katie, the funny thing about what you just said is that people blame Richard Doty for their mistrust in whistleblowers while simultaneously trusting Richard Doty over.
Right. Yeah, I know. Exactly.
And the problem I own, Richard Doty is trying to do right. He's coming out and talking. He's telling all this stuff. But the stuff he is telling is wilder than what David Grush is saying. I mean, he's literally saying, I have first-hand witness, eyeball account of bringing back an alien that escaped from Area 51. He's out there saying it. And after all of the disinformation and stuff he did for AFOSI, how can you believe him? I mean, he had first-hand knowledge of the UFO retrieval program, according to him. But the reason he's not all over there testifying before Congress is nobody can believe him. Nobody trusts him in the UFO community. And so I hope that he's out there telling the truth, because it's really interesting. It really is. I mean, but he's also out there telling the Serpo story. Is that real? How can I ever believe it? I need real evidence. You get that?
It sounds ridiculous, by the way. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't. I apologize. I would love to talk to Richard Doty, to be honest. I mean, I grew up on hearing about Richard Doty. I would just like to talk to him to find out. But just to be totally honest, I don't have to agree with somebody to have a. I mean, I talked to Dolly and to Preston, and I don't agree with all of the things that they say. I trust and believe they believe. I believe their experiences are true, by the way, 100%. I just don't agree with their ideas about the phenomena. So I don't think I have to agree with Richard Doty to have a conversation. I really think that Serpo thing is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, because nothing in our experience on this planet ever in the history of ufology says that anything like that has ever happened. There's nothing to nothing to compare that kind of experience with the phenomena. The beings are not like that. It literally just sounds like a fantasy fabricated by maybe somebody gave him that information. Maybe he saw a document. It just sounds ridiculous. It's uncorroborated like anywhere in ufology.
Well, one of the other things that we got to talk about because of this personal attack on David Grush is now what happens to other whistleblowers. David Grush said in Congress that he would provide a list of cooperative as well as uncooperative whistleblowers who would be willing, or who that the Congress should go to try and get them under oath about this subject. Now, if I'm a whistleblower, and apparently 3 or 4 of the 8 or 10 whistleblowers that we heard were about to come out, okay, 3 or 4 of them actually had firsthand knowledge, not secondhand like David Grush, but firsthand knowledge of non-human intelligence as well as crash retrievals. What does this do to them? Why would they now put themselves inside this UFO public spectrum where there's going to be people like Ken Klippenstein and others who are looking to absolutely ruin their lives? Okay? Ruin their lives. That's what this is about. It's about trying to ruin this person's credibility where he may not be able to make a paycheck at any time soon. I mean,
well, they turned off Grush's clearance, so he can't testify to anything he knows to Congress because his brain is full of stuff that he's not allowed to speak out loud.
But Jeremy Corbell said that him and George Knapp were in a skiff, and they don't have any classified.
No, that's. I've taken my family and friends inside the deepest, darkest holes inside the United States of America. That's not impossible. Because I've done it.
Which means they can do it too, and they're just not. They're being stonewalled.
I guess as observers of these whistleblowers, if we see people that are on these lists that we're going to testify and all of a sudden they choose not to, and all these people are being shut up, so to speak, or bought off or silenced, we can see what's going on as observers of this. And I think the lack of that will all tell us something. They don't necessarily need to say something for us to see what's going on.
Actually, that's very well said, and I think in even more important, the fact that David Grush said he directed the appropriate people with the right right information, direct information to the Inspector General, the acting Inspector General, to see the previous Inspector General sitting behind Grush, representing him as his lawyer. I don't know what's being missed here, but these are pretty big deals. Who cares? I don't even care if we never hear it in public again. It's being said to the right people that make decisions about what we do next. And to me, I think that we need to wait and see what happens afterwards and keep fighting for transparency in the meantime. Never give up this, don't think that, because I don't have the UFO in my backyard, I can't trust anything. That's ridiculous. You're not thinking logically, because what we're seeing here is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before. There's legislation that's being supported by many Congress people, by people by politicians on both sides of the aisle that include the term non-human intelligence.
None of that. The government takes ownership of all materials. It no longer can be in a corporation. It has to be brought back to the government. That's number one. Number two, there's a thing that's happening that people need to just take a breath. Here's what's happening. That means you have to take a breath. We had all these hearings and everybody expected the door to crash open. We learned everything the next day. What happened the day after the hearing? Congress went on recess for 5 weeks. There's nobody in Washington, D.C. to have a hearing. August is a month they take off. So there's nobody there. Nothing's going to happen. Calm down and wait until September, because we got to see where the final battle is going to be on the National Defense Authorization Act in the House. Then it has to go back and forth, House, Senate, House, Senate, House, Senate, until they find one they can send to the President of the United States, and he will sign.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up hour number 2 here on Spaced Out Radio. And when we return, we're going to have some fun. Where do the experiencers come into play in all this? How important is the experience, knowing that this is all getting out of hand on a political front? We knew it would happen eventually, but we're here now. So let's get back to the woo. Let's get back to the reports. Let's get back to the fun. Experiences next on Spaced Out Radio. The roundtable continues.
I'm actually working on something, Dave. I'm working on another video that I'm going to voice over about the experiencer phenomena, a video series that I'm working on for that, because
Nice.
yeah, I think that it's important that people, that's actually something that people have been asking me about, is why don't you talk about the experiencer phenomena? Because when I do, people get really upset. You know, people get really upset because there's good and there's bad, and you can't just ignore people that have, you know, their story. So I'm working on a project that's going to talk about all of it. It's going to be presented in a very cinematic and I guess you could say like one that really touches people deep within their heartstrings, because that's how you really influence people. It's by getting into their heart and changing their consciousness. So
Agreed.
it's going to be good.
Agreed.
I'm excited.
Katie Page changes her name, her consciousness, her everything.
Oh, wow. Well,
Ooh.
change is good.
Change is good.
Change is inevitable.
Change is
If you do not evolve, you're gone.
Agreed.
That's all there is to it. You might as well hang it up and go find a casket.
Yeah.
I agree.
Speaking of fake journalists, I'm not a real doctor. I mess with
And I'm not a real Page.
remember-
There's a lot of fakes on stage tonight, huh?
I'm not a real doctor, but I did stay at the Holiday Inn Express last night.
Oh, wait a minute. I feel like there's more to that story.
I
The
once
commercials.
called out there was one young loudmouth who literally for a couple years made a career in ufology by lying about his credentials. He got a TV show. One year he spoke at 9 conferences in 2019. Whoa. And the television show was titling him as an investigative journalist. This guy never worked a day in journalism in his life. Okay. But he self-titled himself. And one day on Twitter, where he was going off about how he's sick and tired of people not calling him a journalist, I actually went on Twitter and I said, but you're not. I said, what beat did you work? What portion of journalism did you work? Radio, television, newspaper? I said, tell me what the beat is. I said, you can't, because you've never worked in journalism a day in your life, yet you're lying about your credentials. And if you lie about your credentials, how can we trust your research? And from that day forward, I got blocked. But eventually, he stopped calling himself a journalist because he knew that he was lying, and people were now understanding that he was lying. He doesn't speak at many UFO conferences anymore because of it. And that's part of the issue that we have is in this field, you can be whoever you want to be. All you have to do is believe it yourself. And that's part of the problem that we have in all of these online debates, all of these different things.
Period.
Is that nobody's telling the truth, or
there's no controlling or certifying body in ufology. There is none. There's no ufology
Absolutely.
degree. There's nobody who says that person is a certified ufologist. The only certification that we have that I can think of is MUFON certified tested field investigator.
Absolutely.
That's
Well,
it.
what happened if we did though? Like if there were a certification or a college degree for
Oh
that?
my Lord, who would administer it? Who would administer it?
Yeah. And on top of that, we're talking about it'd be like getting, a degree or certification in understanding the human experience.
It
But
would
we
be
all
like
have that.
religion. It would be like
It
religion
would be like
or
religion.
philosophy
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think more religion, because religion, I mean, this is a subjective experience
It's
that we
belief.
verify. Yeah.
It's
And
not yet
unfortunately-
fully scientific. It's belief.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
Mhm.
problem too with a lot of the cases. You go back, I mean, as administrator for the Mars, which is all from 69 up, all the paper documents, you could go back and look at these old cases, but you don't know who researched them, who investigated them, and what kind of investigators they were, or how thorough they were. So the data can't be trusted. You almost have to go back and re-investigate the cases up to a certain standards, because you have no idea, because there's no measurement of that. So it makes the data not necessarily trustworthy either.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
We do need to institute police investigator controlling of data. You have to have control and management of all of the evidence from the time it's gathered, from the beginning on.
From the beginning on.
But it's also the reason nobody will go back to the old cases, because there's no lineage.
Makes it hard.
All right, guys, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Big thank you to Lord William, Gizmo, Deb ×2, Louie ×2, Cat Chaser, Greg in Thailand, Lala, Kevin, Pam H, Vaughn, Human Carl, Science Bob, and W. Decker for the great super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support that you guys have on a nightly basis. Our Space Travelers Club is now open. It's in the description below this show, so you can check that out. And our latest member is Forrest Louie. We appreciate you, my friend, and we're giving you the shout out tonight. And if you're looking for something cool, you could always shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. Don't forget After Hours and Off the Trails this weekend and next. I will be away next week. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Please join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Abnegate. Abnegate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join our Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Here we go. Final hour. Marquise Williams from the After Hours Show is with us, along with Science Bob, and from Colorado MUFON, Katie Page. And we're going to get into the experiencer side of things here, because one thing that I love about this job and doing what we're doing is the stories that people have, the stories that people are experiencing on a nightly, daily basis. Now, for them individually, it may not happen quite as often as we think, but nonetheless, you never know when these experiences are going to pop up. And Katie, I would like to start with you on this one as somebody who investigates for Colorado MUFON overall. I mean, how much do you love it when all of a sudden your phone rings or you get an email and it's from someone who has never had an experience before, and here they are throwing their heart out at you about something they saw in the sky?
It's why we do what we do. I mean, for the longest time, I tend to be, believe it or not, I know I'm a pretty quiet, shy, withdrawn person. So I was collecting evidence and doing all my research on the ranch and all that stuff. And it came to a point where I'm like, well, dang, I need to do something with this. I better start sharing it. But then I found and I learned that other people have different perspectives and like the encounters that you connect the dots. And I mean, it's happening several times a day now. And now I'm just getting people from, the UK and around the world that are experiencing some of these disembodied voices, the electrical voices, these strange boxes that I thought was so strange that nobody could possibly ever understand. And yet they're experiencing these same kind of phenomena around the world. And that's, to me, that's the data that we're collecting. That's important. The experiencer data is so important, so very important. It's why we do what we do.
It's definitely the reason why we do what we do. And, Marquise, as an experiencer yourself, I mean, you never know when or if it's going to happen again. Is that one of the things that troubles you as an experiencer, is just not knowing when it's going to happen again?
There are, yeah. It's difficult still to talk about that, but like there are, like, almost every night still, I wonder. There are some nights where it's not so bad, but there are nights where I'm like, oh my gosh, they could literally just be right there and right behind the door, behind the curtain of my office, and I wouldn't, but I'm not gonna. I stay up late at night sometimes still because like I said, I'm afraid that I don't want to be sleeping invulnerable. I want to be awake and I want to confront them. But yeah, I worry about it all the time, a lot. I worry about it because I don't feel like, personally, I don't feel like either two things are happening. One, I don't deserve to know because I'm just a peon in this, the grand scheme of things. Or two, I don't think it's right because if we're so important enough to do these, to conduct these grand experiments on a mass scale, why are we not involved in the process to the point where we have a decision in it? So I'm conflicted about how I should see this, but ultimately I think that human beings, we do have a say, and I think that our say needs to be more conscious and less, passive. We shouldn't be passive when it comes to the experience or phenomena, and we should be more cognizant of it.
I think that's a great answer. Science Bob, how about you? I know you and I have personally been involved in an incident that happened overnight, and I would love for you to break that down for the people.
Okay, so I'd say, well, we've each personally, individually, and together had an experience. But one experience we had was a night when I'm pretty sure that we were taken, and the taking involved learning of it involved you calling me in the morning like you normally do, and saying, did you have anything weird happen during the night? And I says, I don't know. I didn't sleep very well. And then you're telling me of what you thought was a very lucid dream. But then you told me some things because I know some things about dreams. I knew that could not be a dream. It had to be a lived experience because of the things you told me happened during the dream. And so that led me to go and say, okay, let's suppose, and then I talked to the person there with me, and they told me they got up and went around looking around for seeing what was rumbling around the house because they couldn't figure out what was going on. Okay, so I went, I says, was I awake? Yes, no, you were not awake. So I went and grabbed my Fitbit watch, and my Fitbit watch said that during the time you believed that we were up and off and together, my Fitbit said that I was awake and walking around, but I had no memory of it whatsoever.
And so, that was for 90 minutes, I believe.
90 minutes. We were 90 minutes, and then something about all that woke up my ex, and she got up and looked around to see what was in the house because she could hear stuff and couldn't find anything and came back to bed. So it's just strange experiences. And then I've had things enter my bedroom and walk right up to the end of my bed, look at me in the eye, and seem to be happy with what it saw and disappeared. That's happened twice. I've had a white orb, so bright, it was brighter than the surface of the sun, but so tiny it didn't blind me, but hung in my living room for 15 seconds and then just flicked and disappeared. Then I had 3 hovering craft and a triangle in my front yard. Craft that I thought were airplanes because they had nav lights. Blink, blink, blink. But then I noticed, wait a minute, can't be an airplane since it's under the trees in my backyard. Okay, so then I had Christopher Bledsoe, where he and I saw 40-foot orbs fly right over our head. And I had a hitchhiker follow me home. Hitchhiker made clear through apports that it was there, and the people in that house, each of us had a miraculous healing within 30 days. So the experiences for me, they've been odd, but they've not been fearful. I've had nothing but positive experiences. And then I met Lala and learned that my mother could talk through her, even though she's deceased. And then we all saw all sorts of stuff here through cameras in our yards and around our house. And now it's to the point where they're coming in the house and they're doing stuff, and we can take pictures of them. And I have a very picture, which I'm sure after, if our story becomes better known, will wind up being a pretty famous picture, which is us standing on our deck in our backyard, taking a picture of a gray entity 6 feet in front of us. And we were awake taking the picture. So this is just stuff that's happened, you know, and I'm a scientist, so I'm going to accept either I'm having delusions and hallucinations, which I don't believe, or these are real lived experiences, and I need to figure out what I can about them. I'm not fearful of them. I just want to understand them. So I've been led on this journey now to think about consciousness a lot more than I have.
Okay, so here's the next question to all 4 of us. Let's say after this show tonight, you go outside for a breath of fresh air, and all of a sudden your backyard lights up because there is a craft sitting in your backyard. And the door is open, and you feel like it's inviting you in. Katie, do you go?
Yes, I go. Yep. Yeah, I go.
Why?
Because I have so many questions. I know I'd be risking never coming back again, and but at the same time, curiosity would get the best of me, I think. And I know that I say that, but I'd probably be terrified and run the opposite way in all reality. But I would want to go because I have so many questions and curiosity.
All right,
Whether I actually
Marquise.
do.
Marquise, are you jumping on that craft?
I'm going to try not to curse in this stream.
Leaving your 39 children behind?
Yeah.
Yes, more than me.
Oh, man. I probably do. No, I would not get on that craft. First of all, the data, everybody has their own experiences, but the data does not suggest they answer questions. And the data suggests that they do what they want, when they want, how they want, and you're excluded from that decision-making process. Yes, sometimes they heal, sometimes they don't, though. Sometimes they do what happened to Whitley Strieber or Terry Lovelace or the thousands of other people that are documented in the abduction phenomena, the hundreds that have been talked to by David Jacobs. And we can go on, but the point is that they're not all. There's never a part where somebody says, hey, listen, they sat down in my bedroom, they peacefully talked to me, say, hey, listen, I'm from Zeta Reticuli. I just want to let you know we're here to have a conversation about humanity and where you're going. And I want to work with you. It's always take to experiment, do this, traumatize, and then eventually, after having a long relationship with these people, these beings, eventually, usually, it becomes a more pleasant one. Again, I've mentioned this before, and this is the thing that got me into some serious scary territory with the community. The nature of the phenomena is psychopathic, or at least has an effect of Stockholm syndrome on the experiencer. Now, that doesn't mean that it's evil or bad. It's just that is what the effect is. Personally, I don't want that. Some people are willing to take that. They're willing to face those kinds of experiences. They think they can overcome them. And I think to them, they're the people that are the pioneers of the experience. I'm not that. So if you'd like to your point, Katie, I don't think you're crazy. I don't think that you're wrong for thinking that. I think you're brave. I think you're courageous. I think that if you were to go, you'd be the kind of person that would eventually maybe find out some answers. The question is, are they going to be honest? Because again, the data suggests they lie. They're deceptive. They manipulate. Doesn't mean they're evil. Could be for our own good. We don't know. But personally, I would like a relationship that's built upon honesty and openness and transparency. And with the phenomena, we don't have that.
I think back to the meme of, if I were to be abducted right now, I'd consider it a rescue mission.
Yeah, that's some people say
so
that.
crazy. Yeah,
pretty bad here too. What's
rescue
worse,
me.
this or at least they're clean? Just take me with it. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I love it. I think that's a great answer. Science Bob.
Okay,
Ship
so
lands in your backyard. Are you going?
So we've had craft over trees in our house shining the light down on the trees. So they're this close. So I thought about it. That particular scenario is different from the scenario that Marquise is suggesting, because they've come down, they've landed. They didn't come into my house and take me. They opened the door. So I'm going to walk through the door. I'm going to find out. I may not ever come back, but there are things I feel are worth taking a risk. I'd go.
Can I say something to you, Science Bob, just because I'm curious about your perspective? I read Jacques Vallée's book Dimensions, and there was a scenario in there that I'm going to butcher to no end. Essentially, someone comes across this group of beings that claim they're from another planet close by in our solar system. They have very interesting skin tone, very interesting eye colors. They're humanoid in essence, but they make this claim that they're playing in the water, and they make these claims and tell these stories about where they're from and what their civilization is like. If we look at John Keel, I believe, the Mothman prophecies. We've got that civilization of beings that says that they got the Mothman that approaches a man's car, and he literally leans in and tells him, "Hey, I'm from this place," or he asks him where he's from. He has a conversation exactly as I just stated. That's not what's happening. It has happened. However, if you listen to the stories, they're ridden with lies and deception and manipulation of the experiencer. And so again, I'm not saying that's not that in this case, that scenario that you presented isn't a possibility, or even that if the possibility happened, I don't know what would happen, but in the data does unequivocally, it says that the relationship from its inception is based off of deception, manipulation, and lies.
Yep. I don't disagree with that, and I've read everything Jacques Vallée's written. So what I'm saying. I'd still go.
Let us know, man. All I gotta say is, I'm telling you, I just want to know. You tell me what they say, because it's all data to me, brother. I just want to know what's going on.
Well, I know for me, I would be hesitant, but I would like to think that I have the courage, after everything that I have gone through with my own experiences, that I would extremely timidly walk up on that ship. I don't care if they bring me back or not. I've procreated twice. Okay, my family name is going to live on. I mean, I'm not like Marquise here with 46 kids and counting, right?
Oh man,
I'm not like that. But I think though that when I had the landing in front of me in 2014, and it was communicating with me on my command, turning its lights on and off. One of the biggest regrets that I have is that I never walked up to it. I should, even if I didn't get on that craft, it was about 150 yards away from me. A nice par 3, 7-iron right to the pin. And I wish to this day that I could reclaim that 15 minutes of my life, because I would do things so differently this time. I would go up to it. I would get closer. I may not have got on the craft, but at least I would have got closer to see what I was looking at. And that, to this day, I still kick my butt over, because I knew it wasn't dangerous. I knew it was there for me because it called me outside. And I would love to have that moment back. And I know I'm never going to get that exact moment back. But where that craft is, who they were, what was on it, if anybody, why did it call me outside? Why was it turning its lights on and off on my command? When I'm talking to it and it's 150 yards away and I'm talking to it in the same volume that I am to you guys right now, I need to have that happen again. And I was 38 years old or 40 years old when that happened. Okay. And I need to have it happen again. It's almost 10 years. Next year will be 10 years in April since it's happened. And I know the chances of it happening again. I have a better chance of seeing Megalodon in the ocean than that happening again. And I just don't know what to do. What would I go on? Brave me says yes. The chicken in me says I would go up closer, but I wouldn't get on.
If Jesus came into your bedroom tonight and said, "I'm here to save you," I feel like what would you do, right? I feel like the same thing happens with this. This is what's really strange about the phenomena. It literally is almost like a religious experience. I mean, like it's a one-to-one with seeing Mary Magdalene or Jesus or God or whatever. It's literally that, because you're the only person that can verify your experience. It means nothing to anyone but you. And there's no way you can use that experience to be for anything meaningful in your life other than for your own self. And so to me, I really do feel like the phenomena is akin to a religious experience. That brings up a lot of questions. Like, is there something to do with the brain? Is it something to do with how maybe there's a frequency that we're tapping into in the moment? Maybe there's a chemical that's being released in the moment. I don't think that it's a byproduct of a chemical imbalance. What I'm saying is that maybe when the phenomena presents itself, it's when we're most receptive, when the brain is in a certain, I guess again, frequency or aligned in a certain way. There does seem to be some kind of a religious experience associated with this phenomena, and it's universally so. On top of the bizarre things that happened, what do you feel like? What do you got? And I'm sorry, I don't mean to. I apologize for asking a question on top of a question, but how do you feel about that? The idea that it's akin to religion, like a religious experience.
I would agree with you 100%, 100%. Except I think we would be more accepting if it was somebody like Jesus Christ or Buddha or Allah or whoever standing in front of us than a craft that is, standing vertically 20 feet to 30 feet tall, and its lights are so shiny, they should hurt your eyes because you've never seen anything that bright, but you can look at it with no problem. And that is part of the issue that I have. I mean, now, we had an incident a few weeks ago. I can't say fully what it is just yet, but there was an incident. We ran after it. 10 years ago, I wasn't running after it. So would I get on that craft? I would like to think that I would, but I don't know if that chicken inside of me would allow me to actually take my little claws and walk up the plank to go in, because like you said, Katie, the fear is, what if you don't come back? What if they're there to pick you up for dinner and you're the main course, right?
There's always that.
Oh my god! There's no data to suggest they eat people. By the way, I just want to be clear.
Well,
about
there
that.
are human mutilations. There are those. Hey, Dave, have you ever tried to communicate in like a meditative state or like then try to talk to whomever
Yes.
that was? And did you get
Yes.
an answer?
I got shut out. I got brought back.
Oh,
I got brought back. The only one who's been able to get anything out of me was Geraldine Orozco. The rest, I got to try Deb Shakti yet, but the rest have been shut down. When we come back on Spaced Out Radio, we're going to end it on the UFO front because we got to talk about what's going on in Peru. Do they got aliens, or do they have illegal gold miners who are flying around with jetpacks on their arms and backs? As ridiculous as that sounds, that's the excuse. We got Science Bob, Katie Page, Marquise Williams, and yours truly hanging out for the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio at the round table right after this.
Katie, I would love to talk about it's. I mean, maybe outside of this forum here about human mutilations because my audience has been talking about that to me lately, and I don't have a lot of data on that, but I do know that there's something to it. I just know that it's troubling for a lot of people, so that conversation is difficult to have.
it is very much so. Yeah, it's been going on for decades. And
I would like that information.
Just quickly here. Apparently, is there an issue with something with the wrenches in the chat room? Could you please let me know? Because I don't know what's going on. Christian Morales, thank you for coming on in. Thank you, Noble Patrick, for that awesome super chat.
I didn't see what it was, but somebody said something was an issue. Yeah, I didn't see it. Somebody must have removed it or something. I don't know.
I didn't see it either. Look at Science Bob. He looks like he's ready for a picnic.
or a fight with the naysayers out there.
Yeah. Science Bob right now, he's the kind of guy who can eat an olive and spit the pit out all in one bite.
No.
Yes. I'm sick of the scumbags.
I am really
really
excited. Sorry,
sorry.
Katie, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm really interested in this whole this trauma piece with the paranormal UFO phenomenon. And have you heard in the paranormal world that like prepubescent females can really stir up activity in the house, like poltergeist activity? And I was going to ask Dave when he had this close encounter if you were going through something traumatic, because I often see those go hand in hand.
No,
That's so weird.
Oh, you
I
were?
did.
Yeah.
No, but after I had the experience with the angel of death in my mother's
traumatic.
eyes, okay, but that was in 2011. That's what kicked everything off. And within days, my house was completely haunted.
Yep.
Completely haunted. And literally my daughters were their bedrooms were downstairs. And all of a sudden they started seeing like aggressive shadow people in their bedrooms and in the hallways, to the point where literally we had strings of garlic hanging from the ceiling, trying to purify, and we were saging and
The
Palo
sage,
Santo every day. And the funny part about it is we had just built our basement. Like our basement was when we moved into the house was an unfinished basement, which, by the way, I would never ever buy another house with an unfinished basement, but that's just me. And so we built the bedrooms, we built everything, and that's where all hell started to break loose.
You hear that?
Was around that time. So it was very interesting to see how it all kind of played out, and then the UFOs didn't start coming around till 2013, 2014.
Yeah, Lala had a room in her basement in her home she saw a bright dot on the wall that opened up and turned into a long line. It spread open and the shadow thing came out and closed. And after that, Didn't matter what guy she brought in, friend, boyfriend, whatever, it attacked them.
Wow.
Yeah, that's funny because like you
Wow.
meant, I never associated trauma with my experience until I don't know, like 10 years afterwards. When somebody asked me about that here, actually, while I've been at Space Out Radio, the first time I had my experience, my father died. And the second time I had my experience, I was going through a divorce, and those were the worst moments of my entire life. They were terrible. And it just, again, I don't know if there's an association there, but when you mention that, it just reminds me of that somebody else asking me the very same question, and then that moment of revelation.
I think when you have trauma, it makes you, I don't want to say vulnerable. It breaks down walls you have against something's interacting with your consciousness. And so we're talking about the deal being different with every person who sees this stuff. It's different. I think that each of us brings a set of experiences, a certain set of beliefs, a certain set of morals, a certain set of whatever. And whatever this phenomenon is, it's weirdly trying to interact with us, and it flows through our own view of it. So we impose a view on it.
That's right. And we disassociate.
And we disassociate.
Yes.
I want to say a big thank you to Patrick, Jeff, Linda, Lord William, Gizmo, Deb ×2, Louie ×2, Cat Chaser, Greg, Vaughn, Human Carl, Lala, Kevin, Bob, W. Decker, and Pam H for the super chats. Here we go. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind all of you as we head into the final half hour that if you've missed most of this show or others, all of our archives are free. We're not like the other guys who charge you for the archives. No, we keep ours free because we always want everybody to have access to it. Just go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. The only thing I want in return, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join our Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Here we go, final half hour. We're getting into this weird alien stuff that's happening in Peru the last couple of weeks, where villagers have been stating that these green monsters standing 7 to 8 feet tall have been terrorizing them. There's videos of people allegedly getting their necks sliced by these things, faces ripped off, and all sorts of heinous things by these ETs that are there. Now, the funny part about it is both the Peruvian government and the American government have come out saying, no, it's not aliens. It is illegal gold miners flying around on personalized jetpacks. Well, I don't know about you, but I think any decent human being would be able to tell a jetpack on the back of a person from an alien. Science Bob, I want to start with you on this one. What the hell is going on in Peru?
I don't see how it can be a jetpack. The scene I remember seeing is one of whatever it was standing at the apex of a roof on a building or a home, and all the crowd around them shouting at them. That seems to be the most popular one. And I saw a vague image, but I haven't seen this other stuff. Somebody needs to bring me better evidence.
You're not happy about the Peru thing?
I don't know what it is, but I don't believe the Peruvian and American BS.
Marquise, let's go to you here. You know,
I'm deep in this. Oh, I'm so
let's
deep
go,
in this.
man. Get deep with me. Get as woo-tastic as you can.
Yeah, let's just go with this. Okay, we don't know for 100% certainty what it was, but I believe the people that made the claims that they made. I think that they saw something strange. Was it a gray alien? Well, The photo that was released to the public that we saw, you could clearly see a silhouette that looks like a freaking gray alien. Tall, big head, you can see it. You can see I mean, if you've ever seen one, you know what they look like. Only this one was tall. This wasn't the little gray one. This is a tall gray one. It had the really pointy chin, the big black eyes, the big head, all of that. It was just crouched down. It was creepy. Now, that doesn't mean that it could be an illusion. It could be just a thing of photography. But they said they saw the same thing that you can see for yourself in that photo. Now, the other thing that I think is interesting is the idea that jetpack wielding miners, who, by the way, aren't very wealthy, can afford I don't know how much those things are, but they're like tens of thousands of dollars for those freaking jetpacks with the fuel. And nobody heard the loud noise and the rustling of because you're talking about propulsion, like human propulsion here. We're not talking about anti-gravitic technology, which, by the way, if they had that, how did they get their hands on anti-gravitic technology? And why would they need it? Why would they be mining if they have you get just the level of stupid on to this idea that they're jetpack wielding miners is insanity. However, I understand why people would accept that, because the idea that it's an alien attack is bizarre. Now, I will say, what I find interesting is if we think about Dulce, right? What did Phil Snyder say they came across when they were digging too deep into the Earth's core?
Tall grays.
And the ranches.
And the ranches,
tall grays.
I think that it's possible, if you want to be woo here, that those miners came across something. They dug into something, and something got loose, and that those people have been experiencing what they call the piracaras, the face peelers, for generations, from what I understand. It's not a new phenomena. This is not new to them. However, this being so blatantly happening so blatantly and so openly, it's new to them, at least in that with that respect. But the piracaras, the face peelers, and I learned this from Timothy Alberino, they've been around for quite some time. That's been happening to those people for quite some time. So but of the great words of Robert Downey Jr., you'll never go full retard, man. So don't go all the way with the Project Blue Beam. If it wasn't jetpack wielding miners, it was Project Blue Beam. Something happened there. We just don't know exactly what it was.
Katie,
Whether it's gold miners protecting the gold, or whether it's ET or green goblins, I just worry about these poor traumatized kids, these young. I mean, if you watch these videos and the chaos that's ensuing around them, the fear that these youngsters are going through right now, I just worry about them. Like, I don't know. I hope they, all come together and figure this out and help those poor kids going through this, because I will live with these people forever. Like, as somebody who experienced high strangeness as a young kid, that'll stay with them forever. Even if it's this short kind of crazy time for them, it's going to mess with these young minds. And that's what I find disturbing to watch. I find the videos disturbing to watch because I see them shooting and this chaos, and that's trauma. That's trauma. So I don't know. I think it's who knows what it is. I don't buy the gold miners protecting their gold story, though. No.
I mean, if ever a gold miner with jetpacks, I promise you,
No.
one or more guys in those towns has a gun and would have blown its head off.
Right.
I mean, how much
there you
money?
go.
And they're bulletproof? Come on, man. Come on, man.
Good point, Bob.
Like bulletproof jetpack wielding miners.
Yeah,
Guys,
yeah, no.
please just think about this. This is Peru. All right. Who has a jetpack in the world? Is it Peruvian miners? What are they doing in the mines if they could afford a freaking jetpack in the first place? You got to use like just basic logic. That's a cover story.
Critical thinking
why.
is not being exercised by the people that are watching these. So I watched it a little bit. I said it's something weird. I don't know. I don't have enough data. Turned it off. I don't care now.
I'm still curious, but I'm not going to drive myself crazy over a story we can never find out because
we can't get enough data to make a decision.
Yeah, true.
well, here's the thing. That one video where that green alien seemed to be on the roof of the building.
Yeah, that's
To
what I'm
me,
saying.
To
That's
me, when the camera flashes, that looks like a textbook mantid being that we hear all about, with the triangular face, the flat top head, the big eyes, And that's what I saw. I mean, this is right out of the movie Signs, what we're seeing here. And the fact that the Nazca lines are very close to this, and Marquise, as you said, reports indicate that this has been going on for years, if not decades or longer, with these same people. What is in these forests? I mean, let's also not forget that the South American jungles are some of the most unvisited and unmapped portions of the world. There
Could
are
be a
places,
cryptid. I mean,
yeah, it could be many cryptids hiding in there that we don't even know. It's insane there. So I don't put up with the fact that this was miners with jetpacks. Okay. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. It sounds swamp gas to me, right? And it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And the fact is, the reports are still coming in, Marquise.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go with something strange. I'm not gonna go with Project Bluebeam. I'm definitely not gonna be dumb enough to go with jetpack wielding miners. I can't do that. But I can say that whatever they experienced, it reminds me of the kid in Vegas, to be honest with you, where this kid comes out and he says, and he got bullied and harassed. People were going by his house and taking pictures of it, and then jokingly posting his home address online while they were harassing him, and then saying, "Oh, see, look, he's a liar because he won't talk." You literally scared him into hiding. So when you have people that are having experiences and are believing in their head, listen, I'm going to do something this time. I'm going to tell the world. I bet no one will ever do that now because they see what happens to people that do tell their stories, whether they be in the U.S. or otherwise. I don't see why anybody talks any. I don't see it because, again, we're eating ourselves alive here, people. Let these details come out. To Bob's point, eventually we'll know or we won't. Otherwise, either way, who cares at this point? It's really interesting, and by the way, I'm all on it. But let's just wait to see what happens before we say it was definitely gray aliens or mantids or jetpack wielding miners. Pff, whatever it is, it was strange, and to your point, Katie, it was impactful to those people.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I agree with you. And these people are having the experience. Katie, you've been around enough experiencers. And even though I'm sure you don't speak the language or whatever, but just looking at the body language that we've seen on video from this, if we could take that from these videos, what do you get out of it as an investigator and researcher?
Well, either it's a huge hoax that so many people are involved in, and I don't think that because you could see the fear, chaos, panic, and all of it. So whatever they're experiencing is terrifying for these people. So to that end, I'm not in Peru. I can't sit there and interview these people. I don't speak their language. I don't know. But I think, let's take a step back. The jetpack story seems a little crazy to me. But obviously they need help and they need to be taken seriously. They're afraid, and we should never laugh in the face of people that are fearful. So
I'm sorry.
Bob?
There's.
Or go ahead, Marquise.
I'm so sorry because you mentioned something I think is really important. Also, remember that it was in the 90s that the Brazilian military was called on a town where they were experiencing orb attacks. Orbs were going into people's homes and literally going through their bodies and causing cancerous effects, radiation burns, and so forth. So much so they had to get the military involved. Just like, I mean, it was a little bit more. It was bigger than this situation in this village. But they had to get the military involved. There was an investigation that was done, and the U.S. got involved as well. It's documented. Yeah. I would say Google that if you guys have a chance to. Brazil has been experiencing far worse experiences. Yeah. Like the U.S., they're coming down like angels, y'all. You're star seeds. We love you. In Brazil, it ain't the same. They're experiencing something very, very different in Brazil. Yeah. It's much more hostile, if you will. It's seemingly hostile in Brazil. So to somebody else's point in the chat, Brazil, you should definitely check out what's happening and what has been happening for decades to those people.
Right. We just had Thiago Luis Tuchetti on, and he is a speaker right now at the MUFON Symposium going on in Cincinnati, and he's from Brazil. And he was talking about that very thing. I mean, they've been dealing with this kind of very high strangeness, sometimes very frightening, these attacks in Brazil for decades. So this is nothing new for that country.
It's weird how Brazil, Peru, Argentina seem to have all of these hardcore alien attack type of visitations. I mean, whether it's Virginia, whether it's where we are right now by the Nazca lines. Bob, what do you think it is about South America that is having all of these types of issues with alien attacks?
It really is kind of odd. I keep waiting for James Fox to let the next foot drop on Virginia. He's like this close to getting the video or the real photos so we can see the alien. I want to see the red-eyed critters. So I just want James Fox to finally get his reward for all these years of effort. I don't know. Brazil and Latin America, they are really wild. And then they are introduced the world to Zendras, which are the most peaceful possible experiences you can imagine. I mean, Grant Cameron and other people have gone to Mount Shasta and gone into them with them. So I don't know what's different about Latin America other than I believe that like Native Americans, they are closer to their non-technocrat, non-filtered through physical materialism, like the Europeans are, and the people that follow the European deal in the United States. They're different in that they're not inculcated with all that, and their minds are more open to things that are happening. And so, since their minds are more opening, and whatever's coming down there, if it's interacting with people, it's much less likely to run into an F-35 with a massive missile on the back of it than it is if it's in the United States.
That's it.
That's
I've
a
heard
good
several
point.
theories. Yeah, that was an excellent point. And I've heard theories people say, again, it's a testing. I've heard everything from it's a testing ground for Project Bluebeam to the fact that the people there are highly religious, so their consciousness is more receptive to those phenomena.
I believe that.
Yeah, I've heard of that before. Again, theories are, I don't know why, but it is happening. And I think that more important, we will never know. I mean, knowing why is probably a very long game here. But in terms of knowing what's happening, there's a lot happening there. The spectrum is it's just like the extreme on both ends. There's nothing in between. And I think you're right. I think because they don't have the high level of defense that we do in the US, which is why we don't experience the same thing. However, Ryan Graves recently mentioned that there are being reports by pilots that there are seemingly dogfights in space between UFOs.
Yeah.
That is an interesting thing to hear because it's possible that I don't want to get off topic, but there may be different phenomena that are engaging with humanity to bring this kind of into the conversation, whether it be that the experiencer phenomena, or in this case, what's happening with pilots seeing literal dogfights in space.
Yeah, so we were sitting here having some experiences, and we got some stuff on videos, and it looked like we videoed a dogfight. I mean, the entire sky lit up with a very big flash. There was no clouds. There was not lightning, and we could hear a boom. We recorded all of this, sent it to Linda Thompson, who's listening, and she did some analysis on all of this and said, I don't know what this is, but it's weird. So she did her digital forensics on the videos, and it just said it's weird. So, I mean, I can attest to something. That, and Linda and I went to a MUFON meeting in Northern Virginia, and I took pictures of this craft I got with our cameras to the MUFON luncheon. And Linda and I were sitting at the table, and right next to me was sitting the deputy director of Space Force. And I showed him my UFO pictures, and he looked at that one, and he had just about tore everything open he could to give me his name, his contact, his address, and his email address. And And Linda said it was fun watching his face because he got really excited that I had gotten this thing. And it looked like, and I can tell you from geometry calculations, this thing was monstrously huge. It looked like a multi-level parking deck. It was weird. And he was all into it and he got it. And of course, he never said anything to me about it.
Of course not. Of course not. I mean,
so I can say this kind of things that look like battles are going on over here.
But if you look at what's happening, you know, with James Fox's movie about the Varginha incident in Brazil, okay, we're looking at some sort of phenomena that is really trying to stand its own ground. Look, we know there's good ETs and there's bad ETs, just like there's good people and bad people. But for some reason, South America, as we have about 2 minutes to go, always seems to end up with the bad dudes who want to rip people's faces off.
That's because over the United States and Canada, we have NORAD, which is crack them down and put a missile up their tailpipe.
Well, America, because our fighters are too old.
No, it's still NORAD. Canada's still part of NORAD.
I get that. I do. I do. But hey, when in doubt, illegal miners with jetpacks, right? So we're going to have the Canadian Armed Forces now with jetpacks on their arms, going around making all sorts of UFO sightings that they might find out there. But you know what? It's a debate that's going to continue. I think it's a story that's going to continue. I think now that it's caught on, people are wanting updates of what's going on. Marquise, I know you're really keen on the full updates of what's happening there. And I know I am. Katie, I'm sure you are, and same as Bob. I mean, the idea behind this is there's something strange going on. And we know it's not what they're telling us what it is. But I got to admit, the jetpack theory is one of the worst cover-ups I have ever heard.
One last point I want to make. Even as bad as we don't like him, Kirkpatrick got in front of the Senate and said, we got these spheres and they're all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Anomalous. They're anomalous.
Anomalous spheres all over the world. And that's the thing that they will admit to.
I want to say one more thing as well. I think it's important for everybody to take heed to this. And I don't know for a fact, but I think that it's interesting that what Peter Lavender recently said. He said that there is another shoe to drop. And if you listen to what he said around that conversation, that statement, he's talking about the phenomena in some kind of either an event, a coming event in the near future that the government is aware of. Mm-hmm. And that is what's being called, and he's not the only one who's talking about that.
Oh no, every experiencer that has prophetic visions that I know of says exactly the same thing.
And on that note, we're going to have to wait to what that message is for another month. Science Bob from After Hours, Marquise Williams, and from Colorado MUFON, Katie Page, thank you for another wonderful and successful roundtable. We'll do it all again in the end of September. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night.
Bob, I can't believe you just said that you're seeing like what's like lightning, but there's no clouds or that.
Yep.
That's happening up here.
Oh no,
I'm
it's happening. I think it's happening elsewhere. And Linda looked at these things. She says it's weird.
What is
I already
it?
knew
And
it
it's
was
like
weird,
this
but
loud
I wanted an objective third party investigator to look at them and tell them say it's weird too.
I'm gonna have to try and capture it on film if I can, but there's no thunderstorms, no lightning, and I just assumed it's electromagnetism in the air or something, but same kind of phenomenon. I don't know what it is.
Well, there's heat lightning, but that's not what this
heat lightning. That's what I assumed it was.
No, the one I got was in the middle of winter where there's no heat lightning.
Wow. Wild. All right. Crazy. Well, thank you, Dave, for having me. I'm going to bed. Good night.
Katie.
Good night. Thank you, guys.
I'm gonna go watch the crew launch.
I'm gonna go to sleep. See you, Dave.
You sleep, Marquise?
Sometimes I sleep. Yeah, I gotta get up and there's gonna be two things happening, and we got a great show tomorrow on SOR, so you guys better be there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a lot. I'm really excited about tomorrow's.
They're gonna be there.
All right, Dave, I'm out of here, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
You take care.
Take care.
And just like that, we're down to one. We are down to one. My goodness. My goodness. That was a great show. Lots of good emotion. Lots of everything. Questions from any of you in the chat room tonight as I am editing here. What do you got for us? What do you got? Bring it. Bring it, people. You know what I'll do? What the hell? Let's do it. If you want to come on and talk with me here, here's the link. There's the link if you want to come talk with me. Otherwise, put your questions in capitals. What is the date of the September thing? What September thing? I'm going fishing in September. Tony Pong, how you doing? Gene Beckett, good to see you. Have we done a show about
decade? It goes on and on and on. You don't know who to.
While we're working
up to
that's a good
on public transport
caption.
And I think
on public transportation. The book worked like a charm. 5-star.
Why is that in there?
we didn't have this creative. We are able is to
Her book on Amazon.
What the hell?
turn off.
Amazon.
Turn off.
Really.
Seasons have been.
Why the hell do I have commercials in here?
Really.
To turn off the noise, turn off the trying to tear everybody down.
Huge by
Heavy for you.
Responsibility as researchers that present this information to
Hey,
the public
it's Steve
to
Train
cut
Mark.
through that BS so that
How you
people can
doing,
understand.
Steve?
Hi, Dave. How are you?
And so
Well,
for
now
me,
I
it's
gotta
just sticking
apparently
persons
edit for
people
commercials
Each
in
other
here
from
now.
around the world that have been overlooked.
Give me 2
and
seconds.
down. Don't think
Yeah,
about
man.
that lately.
There.
Yeah, it's
That doesn't look proper.
he created. This is
Yeah, so she about our evidence. And
Face to face.
in
ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ quality vehicles ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ
That's the other
actions and do all these ranch and make video sound that they're using are exciting for me. And
one.
ਕਲੀਅਰੈਂਸ ਸੇਲ ਚ ਪੈਟੀਓ ਸੈਟ ਪਰ ਕਲੀਅਰੈਂਸ ਸੇਲ ਚ ਪੈਟੋ ਸ਼ਾਪਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਨਿਕਲੇ ਪਰ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਦੇ ਹਾਂ quality vehicles ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤਾਂ
this is going to
ਟੋਯੋਟਾ ਵਿਖੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ
What the hell is these? Give me 2 seconds here, Mark.
ਟੋਯੋਟਾ ਵਿਖੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ quality vehicles ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤਾਂ ਟੋਯੋਟਾ ਵਿਖੇ
I definitely don't speak Indian. What the hell is going
ਟੋਯੋਟਾ ਵਿਖੇ 80% APR ਤੇ $3,000 ਡਾਊਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ
on? Oh, that's where
It's
it
gonna-
ends.
ਟੋਯੋਟਾ ਵਿਖੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ quality vehicles ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤਾਂ
That is tough to understand. Mark, where'd you go? I don't understand why all of a sudden we're getting these commercials here. I really don't. This is SOR1. Yes, override it. There he is. How's Australia today?
G'day, Dave. How are you? It's absolutely terrific. The sun's going down. It's about just after 5 p.m. here. It's absolutely beautiful. Hang on.
Am I alive tomorrow?
Of course you are. Of course you are alive tomorrow, Dave.
Sweet.
Sorry. Hang on. That's probably going to work better. There we go. There's a better view. Just absolutely.
Nice.
Just you couldn't ask for a better day. We could do it with a bit of rain, though, I must admit. So my question is, this thing about 2027, John Ramirez talked about it. Lou Elizondo mentioned it, you know, go get a hobby for 5 years. What do you think's going to happen? Have you heard any more?
I talked to John Ramirez personally about 2027. And when one of my sources had talked to me about what was going on around that date as well. Now, originally, I was told that it was going to be around 2035. And then it seemed to have got sped up. Now, I think it's a couple of things. Number one, I think that it's a date that could just pass by with nothing happening, or a year that could pass by with nothing happening. Or if we want to get into the woo side of everything, I really do believe that there is a date set for these types of intelligences, shall we say, to make their presence known. Now, I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. I can't predict that. There's a lot of fear mongering going around. This is why, Mark, I always tell you and the rest of our audience, and I know you've been listening for years. This is why I always mention, you know, sit back and really read between the lines of who's telling what, how's that going, what's really going to happen. I mean, you look at the 2012 fiasco where we were supposed to be dead, you know, in 2012, the Mayan calendar roundup. The problem that they forgot about it, the people who were calculating it forgot that the Mayan calendar was written on the Gregorian calendar and not today's calendar. So it was supposed to happen the previous October, but it didn't happen because you have to add the days because there was no leap year in the Gregorian calendar, right?
Yeah, absolutely right, Dave. And you got to take everything not with a grain of salt, but read between the lines and don't just trust one source. Have a look at other sources, see what other people are saying.
Absolutely, and that's the whole point, Mark. Is when we have somebody like John Ramirez or Lou Elizondo or somebody speak Nobody's come out with a confirmed date. They've just come out with the fact that, hey, there might be something happening. But what is that? Is that finally maybe there's some dark law that we don't know of that is going to all of a sudden come to fruition where the public needs to know. Maybe they will bring out, maybe a landing is supposed to happen. Maybe the phone has rang and it's the aliens on the other end that are saying, hey, by the way, we're on our way. Where are we landing? Do we land in a park? Do we land at a military base? Do we land at a football field? Okay. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
So,
or do we land at a schoolyard like they've done before?
Absolutely. We don't know.
No,
we
don't.
Really don't know. And that's the issue.
Yeah.
Sit back, relax on it, and just allow things to happen. And when the information comes, it provides a clearer picture, we go with it. That's what we'll do.
We just have to, we have to keep adjusting our theories as we go along.
Absolutely. I wouldn't worry about it. And
no, I'm not worried about it. I'm just curious.
I'm just as curious as you are.
Yeah.
But the thing with this stuff is we've been fed so much BS over the years.
Absolutely.
We don't know what's truthful, what's not anymore.
Exactly. Absolutely. You just, let's just ride the wave while it's going and go from there.
Any kangaroos around?
Yeah, there are. They're not that far away from me. I actually go past them every day when to the various jobs I have to go to. So I do get to see kangaroos. However,
nice.
They're getting less and less because of just the expansion. The area where I live here is expanding like you wouldn't believe, or expanding, however. So there's more and more subdivisions going in, and the company I work for, we are just one of several companies that are doing subdivisions in this area at the moment. So, and when that sort of thing happens, it's just natural that the wildlife gets further and further away, which is sad,
But eventually the wildlife does make its way back.
Yeah.
I know, like in my area, the deer, when they built this area, the deer, the bears, everything disappeared. But over time, it does come back.
Yeah.
Because they're like, okay, we can do this.
Yeah, it is possible, but let's hope we don't go too far, too crazy. But anyway, So, all right, Dave. Thank you very much.
All right, Mark, you take care.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one, everyone.
Much love, my friend. Much love. Take care.
Bye now.
That's Mark, Steam Train Mark from Australia. Just give me 1 second, Sapphire. I just gotta figure this out here. There's no such thing as
Toyota ਵਿਖੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ quality vehicles.
There is that thing again.
Quality vehicles ਤੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ quality ਵਿਖੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ quality Toyota ਵਿਖੇ
Okay, so I think it ends right there.
Toyota ਵਿਖੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ quality vehicles ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤਾਂ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਸੋਚੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵਿੰਡੋ ਸ਼ਾਪਿੰਗ
Such thing as Martians. This has nothing to do with Martians or UFOs. What was your thoughts?
His bases mostly
who's had
only by for Congress, a little bit beyond. He's stuff.
He doesn't have
politics. Doesn't matter whether their family
For people,
drop the question.
Again, if we're going to get political, he's dodging Trump.
Though that they dropped
that reason for that is because the same
Peter Thiel, who's worth about it too, is do you
number one? It's a whole other question. Till the bitter end, they're not going to younger generation
middle to hill. There's a reason that one
is seeing the
intelligence agencies look really
being. We're going saying just makes
that I saw elected first
known
that
Joe science. There we go. All right, cut that up now. Let's bring her in. Wait for her to. She's got her Ray-Bans on. She's got her antennas on. She's got her hair flattened. She's ready. She's pumped. Sapphire Elf, how you doing?
Mushy mush, good. I was just having a bit of anxiety thing, catching my breath. It's been a while since I've been on the camera.
You're looking good. You're looking
Cheers,
good.
Dad. I was going to jump in and say I can talk about Yowies and like Australian Bigfoot And I've spoken to Jeff Meldrum, the foot guy that discovered the mid-tarsal break, like backstage after a show. And Travis Walton I've also spoken to. And I've never seen the movies. And so he loved the way I asked questions. I wish I could go find the old stream. But I think the channel got taken down because of people in bad faith reporting old videos. Yeah, I was on Conflict Radio is how I kind of got into the wheel on YouTube.
Yeah. That's fantastic hair, my man. Fantastic hair, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a little jealous.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, most chicks are as well.
Are you in Australia too?
Yeah. Another Aussie. I was going to, say good day to the other bloke. I see how this time of night, right? We're just kind of 5 p.m., got home, having a beer, winding down, getting a bit chatty.
Very nice. Very nice.
I've been setting up the off-grid caravan all day, so I got junk everywhere. Ignore all that.
Oh, if you saw my studio right now, it only looks good in this area. I haven't finished it up yet. I got shelves I got to clean up yet.
That's what I was thinking.
Way too much.
I should just get some hooks and a curtain and use the screen filters, right?
Could do that. Totally could do that.
Because that's something I can take down and just throw in the wardrobe when I'm not using it. You know, it's not in the
way.
You had the
give me a second. I'm just listening
because
for
it's
some commercials out of it because that
Swatches.
It doesn't.
For example, Woo isn't
myself.
Her clothes.
What are we hearing?
Like this.
That's
where
skipping through.
Later they
half
are bringing
hour just to see if there's
that
any
they're
commercials.
Okay.
Right after. There we go.
Oh, sorry.
We're good now.
You tell me when to continue my new wafflings. Because I'm more into the philosophy rather than debunking.
You can continue your wafflings right now.
Okay, so I love the philosophy and the anthropological implications throughout history of both extraterrestrials, technology, and spirituality. Like, I'm into Atlantis, Agartha. I think it's probably easier to live in a cave underground than it is on the moon, right? That's just logical. And I don't know, like, I used to always put stuff on the people that said it's demons. Like, I was never into explaining it with spirituality, but now we're getting these quantum metamaterials that can exist in multiple places at the same time. It's like the more I get into missing 411 and the more smart people into quantum theory talk about this stuff, I'm thinking there's 3 aspects to it.
Okay.
What do we send to other worlds to look at them? Technological, physical probes that are unmanned.
Right.
So the chance that ET technology is showing up in our vicinity and we've got it isn't that improbable. If they're interested in us, it'd probably be an unmanned probe first, and it could be 10,000 years old. We don't know. And then if they finally get here and they're rocking around, well, maybe that's very rare and there's multiple types of them. And so I think the ET, even if there's multiple factions, is just one bracket. And then we've got the bad faith humans messing with their tech. And that's unlocked quantum metamaterials. And now they're interacting with shit like fairies and goblins from folklore as well. And that's like your Skinwalker portal stuff. And so I'm more willing to put that woo. I don't want to say that all aliens are demons, right? I think some are biological, but I think some stuff is coming through portals now too.
Agreed. I think you're right on that.
Humans in the middle are messing with both of it. And that's where the complication is, I think.
I think to add to your point, this is why we've been saying for quite a while, the phenomena is all one. And if you look at a lot of people's experiences that they have had, the phenomena is really showing itself in more directions and at more times. So if all of a sudden you have a paranormal experience, the chances of something else happening, like really lucid dreams or channeling, or you're out for a walk and you see something strange in the sky, I think that's going to push the phenomena altogether. But the problem is we don't know what we're dealing with. We, like you said, we don't know if we are dealing with demons. We don't know if we're dealing with a certain piece of darkness that's out there. How many of these portals are opening? Where are these portals opening? I mean, what is coming through?
It's all a web of special interests making money off it on the black book, all at war with each other, or misinformation in each other in a power battle, right? I think there's like that. You got your CIA people that can like remote view you, and then they're probably the ones that talk to the real ETs. Then you got your way off books black budget, and even the CIA doesn't control them anymore. And they're like your deep Lockheed Martin skunk work stuff. And I think they're shooting at each other.
It could be. I'm not saying that it isn't happening that way. You know, you could be onto something very, very unique.
I just think it would be highly unintelligent to shoot at an extraterrestrial that was alive. Know one of its probes? Yes. If you knew it was unmanned? Yes. If it's got bodies in it? Oh my God. Oh, yeah. That's why I think there's a very rare interaction or crash of that. And then it's a whole bunch of bad faith people in the middle messing with all of it.
Give me 1 second here. Jumping on that.
Hundreds that have been talking some more. This and tells them.
I
guess again, frequency or a long.
I'm just getting people from.
There are yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree with you, my man. There's a lot of high strangeness and weirdness, and we don't know really how to track it. We don't know what they know, and that what you said really indicates why I've been saying for a long time there is no such thing as disclosure. We're in a confirmation movement of the phenomena because of those kept secrets that we don't know about. And let's remember, everything it doesn't take a lot of people to push the compartmentalization of hiding this subject. Okay, it's just like we hear these stories of, hey man, all I did was build bolts in a factory, and it wasn't until 20 years later I realized those bolts are being put on an F-117 stealth fighter.
Well,
right?
It's like I say, even if we get an alien body wheeled out from a crater in a craft, how does that explain portals with giant magical wolves and wolfmen at Skinwalker Ranch? It doesn't. That's something else. But by unlocking this alien tech through metamaterials, they're interacting with that quantum world. And like, I always was into history, anthropology, and folklore. And I know fairy stories. I got a giant Bible on it right here. It's great. Everyone needs this book. But that's just one of many that I got, right? I always look for them in random books, like in Shakespeare and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the same verbiage as this Skinwalker stuff, but missing 411 and aliens and fairies is the overlap. There's something in the middle doing both of it. And it's new.
I agree.
And I think it's people messing with Black Project stuff. I think they're messing with both quantum stuff and alien stuff. And they're all at war with each other trying to get the upper hand. I don't know.
Is it evil people doing it, or is it the phenomenon that's taking it right out of control?
No, I think it's the black. If it's humans being hurt, I think it's more likely other people doing it. I think your random encounter and abduction with aliens is very fleeting. It does happen. But I think it's more likely humans gaslighting other humans and doing weird tests. The government's done it before, so they'll do it again. And if the government can't control these people and we can't trust the government, God help us all. I don't think ghosts are really evil, and quantum world and these like goblins and elves and shit. Not really. I think they just mess with you a bit. But I think when people get hurt, it's the people in the middle doing this human trafficking and drug running with all these.
I agree with you. I agree. Right on, my man. Thank you so much. Gonna let you go. I've got you've frozen up a little bit there. I'm gonna let you go. I got Android coming on, and thanks for your stopping on in, Sapphire.
Hugs and high fives, everyone.
Much love, man.
Love you all. Thanks for the mod rights. I'll try to do right.
All right. That's Sapphire Elf. Let's go to Android. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing, Dave?
I am well. Besides these commercials that are popping into my editing now, it's kind of weird, but
Yeah,
that's
our world's becoming full of ads, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a couple questions for you. First, are you going to have those three back? Your guys' chemistry was awesome with the deep discussion and everything.
I like to mix up the round tables every now and again, but you have to go with chemistry. Like Katie and I just get along so well. We're real strong buddies, and Science Bob is like a mentor and older brother to me, and Marquise is like the little kid brother who is all hyper and excited, right? So
yeah,
it's kind of cool how it all kind of comes together. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like it. I'm disappointed in the YouTube, algorithm. I've been watching, these kind of shows for at least 3 years now, and it never recommended you. I can't believe it.
It's probably my fault. I don't probably use YouTube the proper way that it's supposed to be, trying to learn, but there's just, YouTube is a young person's game. And even though I'm still pretty young at 50, it doesn't bode well for a gray-haired, gray-bearded dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, I put it more on Google. I mean, they're the ones with all this AI stuff. They should be able to know he's watching this kind of stuff. The title is what matters. I mean,
But we keep getting more and more. We've got almost 400 subscribers this month alone.
Yeah.
And watch time is going up. So, more importantly than the subscribers, we have 23,400 subscribers. I wish that we, out of that 23,000, I wish we could get 1,000 a night listening. That would make, and we do, but most people, because of the time we're on, we lose the East Coast audience.
Yeah.
We lose the central audience. So we're relying heavily on Mountain Time, and West Coast audience for it. And then Australia, and then, in the UK, they're just waking up. So we're like the morning radio show for them over there on strangeness. So, it's kind of a predicament. Like I've been asked even by members of my own team, like why don't you just, bring your time slot down a couple of hours so that way you could get the East Coasters. The problem is I can't. I would never see my family, and
right.
Yeah. It's this catch-22. what do we do?
Yeah,
So
that's a tough choice for sure. Yeah, I'm East Coast, but I work from home, so I'm kind of flexible with my hours. I'm pretty lucky with that. So,
you are
but
lucky.
yeah, very lucky. Yeah. So I have a question for you about 2027 that kind of made me that
Go ahead.
discussion you had there. So I have a proposal for you that I've heard nobody else talk about what it could be. I think we're thinking of it in the wrong way. Maybe it's not what the aliens are going to do in 2027, but what we're going to do in 2027. And I don't mean the government. I mean Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, and all these other guys who've orchestrated this whole coming out of whistleblowers and stuff, right? Now think about it. It was in 2017 when Lou first came out, right? So that was 10 years, exactly 10 years before 2027. And I think Lou and Chris and some other people involved basically told the government, in 2017, when they came out with that stuff originally, this is reading between the lines. You always say read in between the lines,
Yeah.
because so they haven't said anything obviously straight out to this. Jeremy Corbell recently saying the whistleblowers are armed to the teeth. What is that supposed to mean? It means that they're ready to push it out, against the government's will if they don't. So I think they told them, 2017, you got 10 years, could do it on your own time, the way you like, that works best for you guys. But if you don't, then we're going to do it in 2027 with or without you.
I think you have a good point.
Yeah.
I'm going to battle it this way.
Okay, sure.
The one thing that more Lou Elizondo than David Grush. You've heard Lou Elizondo use the words, I'm a patriot, many times over. And I like Lou, okay? Yeah. I think the best thing that happened for ufology was Lou Elizondo leaving the To the Stars Academy.
Yeah.
I think it humanized him. I think that it allowed him to be a little bit more upfront and honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And I'm saying that I've interviewed him 3 times. I've talked to him on the phone way more than that. Okay. It's not like I call him up every week or once a month or, I don't abuse my contacts like that. If I have a question, I have no problem texting him on that. Okay. That being said, with Lou being a patriot, as much as he wants selfishly this story to come out, I think his love of country and the American flag and respecting the NDAs that he signed are a lot more important to him than disclosure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, the problem that we have is a lot of these people want to move the ball forward,
right?
But they want to do it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
This is why I laughed at Tim Burchett wanting to take things behind the scenes. Hey, buddy, you were the one telling us right from the beginning you want to be the man who brings this out and to be upfront with the American people. You can't be upfront with the American people if you're going behind closed doors for skiffs.
Right. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So which one is it? Right.
Yeah. I feel like they're trying to do it the right way through democracy. And you know how slow democracy is,
Absolutely. But the other thing that I heard too, and I want to put this in your mind and everybody who's listening's mind. My generation, the Gen X generation and up, and when I say up, I'm going like to the boomers, to the anybody who's still alive from pre-boomer age. Okay. The problem that we have is that is still a very religious age category.
Yeah.
In the Western civilization. That is an issue. Okay. Because if I look at my kids or anybody takes a look at their kids these days, kids are more open to the fact to everything.
Yeah.
Okay. We look at the liberal, and I'm saying this as a Canadian conservative, which if I were to break that down in American, I'm a hybrid between a Republican and a Democrat.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay? And I look at my kids up here today, they are way more liberal. Even though my kids are very financially conservative, they are way more liberal with how people are, what they identify as, what they want to be when they grow up. They're more worried about other things than humanity and where
Yeah.
they are. And we also hear that, and in that same tone, as I say that, my children, and that's what I have to go by. My children are also way more open to life out in space, or
Yeah.
ghosts, or
Yeah.
Bigfoot and Dogman, or whatever. Like my little guy, yeah. If I ask him, I'll say, "Hey, why don't you tell so and so the story about your Dogman sighting or your Bigfoot sighting?" Pardon me. Yeah,
Wow.
it was cool.
That is
Like
cool.
it's like very
Yeah.
nonchalant. Like
Yeah.
whatever, it happened, and it is what it is. And that's kind of the way that my kids take it. Okay, now I'm
Yeah.
not saying my kids are out of the ordinary, but I see it a lot with kids these days where they are really more pumped up about um they're more pumped up about being open to the possibilities than they are about being God fearing.
Yeah. They still like they have a more curious mind. Yeah.
Absolutely, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
you're absolutely right. Even in my millennial generation, I had an experience with a friend. It was the only experience I had with somebody else. And after it happened, I mean, we both saw it. We were sitting on the couch in his basement, and this white, I guess, orb or blur, it was like out of both of our peripheral vision, came flying across the room, moved my jacket, it made a metal ping sound. We think it was the zipper hitting the glass table. And after it happened, we both look at each other. We both acknowledge we saw it. And I'm like, what was that? And he's like, I don't know. But then after that, he didn't want to talk about it. So even in the millennial generation, like he just want to act like it didn't even happen. I was pretty close with him too. So it was just very strange how some people are, they just want to stick to their, I guess, the paradigm they have.
Yep. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And how do you combat that? Because here's the thing, no matter what, personal fear still comes into play.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's like when I said, when we were talking on the show tonight about experiences and landings, would you go
Yeah.
on the craft? The brave side of me says, I'm walking on, screw the world.
Right. Right.
The reality side of me, the chicken side of me says, yeah, not so fast, tough guy.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. I'm the same way. It's hard to predict how you'd react in the moment, Yeah.
Absolutely. You have another question before we get to the next one?
No, I think that was it, man. I love talking with you, and I really appreciate everything you do.
Yeah, man. Hey, why don't you come on the show sometime? Get a hold of Dirty Filth. Come on the show
Okay.
sometime and talk some paranormal.
All right. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Dave. Bye.
Bye. All right, Mr. JSCO. What's
How are
happening?
you?
Gods?
Good to see you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Just talk to us. Let us take that lullaby voice of yours.
Come on
and
now.
just magically disappear into nothingness.
I'll help you. I wanted to give you a little confirmation on a few things and to talk about a few points that I've heard you mention across time as well.
Sure.
You were tonight talking about your sighting, the craft that was flashing its lights at you when you were asking it to.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how bright it was, and yet it did not hurt your eyes, right?
That's
felt
right.
like it should hurt your eyes, but it didn't. I, I wanted to give you some confirmation on that. I've mentioned to you that I had a 1963 sighting. This was of 3 craft that passed almost directly over my head, and I was in the company of 3 other people. It passed almost directly over my head. I'm estimating they were probably 1,500 feet, although altitude is hard to judge at night, as you know. But I imagine they were probably 1,500 feet. They were approximately 83 objects, approximately 80% the size of the full moon. They were lit, Dave. I'm talking about they were bright. They were in a lazy L formation. The third object that had come into that formation, it changed course and went northwest from where I was. They were traveling northeast to southwest. The first 2 that had come up into view, when they got above me, they came closer together. They had the air lit in an area around them. They had a gold ring around the perimeter of them. Both of them were identical as far as I could tell. A bright gold ring. Think of a man's plain golden wedding band, but supercharged and lit. Just inside that, a silvery white surface going to the middle, getting brighter and brighter till it came to a point in the middle that looked something like Jupiter on a bright night. Not Venus in the summer. It wasn't that big, wasn't that bright, but say Jupiter. These things were incredibly bright, and yet it was like looking at them through a pair of clear, if there was such a thing, clear, high quality polarized lenses. There was
Right.
no glare on them. There was no glare on them. Didn't hurt your eyes at all, yet they were incredibly bright. I wanted to tell you about that. And I also wanted to tell you about, ask you a question of something people were talking about tonight about spirituality and its
Yeah.
links to sightings. And it's just incredible to me to think about the fact that Chris Bledsoe is visited by the White Lady on Easter each year.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes, I had
On
heard that.
Easter each year. And now, I don't want people to sit back and go, wow, okay, Chris Bledsoe. Well, you've had Chris on your show, and you have
Yes.
Science Bob on your show very often. I really enjoyed the show tonight, by the way.
Thank you.
But Bob brought home a hitchhiker. He went to Chris Bledsoe's house and experienced with Chris the things that he was seeing, and picked up a hitchhiker that went home with him. And since then, things have been very different at Chris Bledsoe's house. So what is the spiritual connection to that with the White Lady showing up at Easter? Speaking of things like that a little bit, you also mentioned live on the show one time that you had an experience where I believe you said you were lying on your stomach and your right leg got picked up off your bed.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you a little bit of a story.
Please do.
Had an old friend of mine that used to be kind of like a roadie in our old band. We had a 10-piece rhythm and blues band, horn section, the whole 9 yards. We used to play, and he traveled with us, and I got to know him pretty well. We became good friends. And to cut that right down to the bone, in the latter days of his life, he was living in a VA hospital, nursery home, about 100 miles to the north of me.
Yeah.
He knew he wasn't long for this world. And he called me one day. He had come and stay with me a little while prior. I helped him move into the hospital. Well, he called me and told me he didn't think he was long for the world, wanted to know if he could come stay with me. I told him, come on. Went and got him, moved him in. And we had many a wonderful conversation sitting on the front porch of this old house about a lot of different things.
I bet you did.
And he asked me if I can. I'm thinking about your note on your guitar. Okay. He said, if I can, do you want me to contact you after I'm gone? And I thought for a second, and I told him no. I told him no, because I know there's an afterlife. I know where I'm going when I'm dying. I know where you're going. And there's no need in that. Plus, I think it would just scare my pants off of me. You know, I don't want to get involved in that, basically. Well, he accepted that. I don't know, some months after he died here in the house, found him one morning. God bless him. I found him, and some months, my son, who was over here one night, told me he had seen him walking to the bathroom. From my bedroom, he could see into the hallway, and he said he saw him, and he meant it. He meant it. I mean, my son doesn't lie to me like that. And one night I was asleep, and this is pretty weird, but it's the absolute truth. Okay. I was asleep. I used to go and spend weekends with this friend of mine and his mother in a town about 30 miles away. They were early risers and loved to cook breakfast. Well, he would come wake me up. And the way he would wake me up sometime, he would reach down and pick up my left leg, because I always slept on my back, by my long toe. So I'm lying in bed, Dave, asleep, when my foot gets picked up and my leg gets picked up off the bed by my long toe.
Oh, my.
Yeah. I immediately started praying. And I asked the Lord, I said, look, stop him from doing that. I don't want to be involved in this. And it was as if I had a mental image that I could almost see him, or maybe I could. And it was as if someone scolded him, and he disappeared out of my mind. And it's never happened again. Never happened again. Another couple on a lighter topic. I empathize with you on your cough. And I know you've heard enough of this, you don't want to hear it anymore, but I got to tell you, since I'm here talking to you, I have problems with coughs, and they are I would almost call them deadly enemy. I'm 75 and I've got issues. Okay. I can't cough and get into spasms, because once I start coughing, I can't quit. I'll cough until I throw up. And I've tried all kinds of things. Dextromorphan, if I'm pronouncing it right, that's not right, is a common cough medicine. I could drink a bottle of it, be dead, and I'd still be coughing. But there's a cough syrup called Delsym that has that, but it's dextromorphan polystyrate, and its time-released molecule is a little different. And it will stop me from coughing within 10 minutes. And it lasts 6 to 9 hours. It's excellent. I really would recommend it to you, as long as that medicine does not have any type of interaction with you that wouldn't be good for you. I think it would stop your cough. And because of that, your voice would automatically be stronger if you weren't doing all that coughing. Your head would be clearer, because sneezing, you take sneezing, for example, you know how that clogs up everything when you sneeze. You know, you start sneezing, it's terrible effect on you. Coughing is basically the same way. Okay, it's going to affect your throat, your vocal cords, and everything. So anyway, I wanted you to know from the bottom of my heart, you really should try Delsym. You really should. It might be the answer to a prayer for you.
I will write that down.
Yeah. Delsym. The last thing I wanted to mention to you is I've suggested to you, you told me you were working on it, is Tim Alberino. I know that you research anybody that's coming on your show, and absolutely that's what you should do. And I know you already know quite a lot about him. I want to share a little bit about what I know about him. Perhaps is a little different from what you know. I don't know yet. By the way, I hope it's okay for me to mention this. He's been on Jimmy Church's show. And if you go to YouTube and you simply put in Jimmy Church, Timothy Alberino, it'll show you an interview with Tim that Jimmy Church did. You go forward to the overtime section of
Mhm.
that interview. And that's one of the most interesting conversations in overtime I've ever heard in my life. It'll let you know a whole lot about who Timothy Alvarino is. But Alvarino, you're probably aware, he lived in the Peruvian jungles for years. He went there by choice somehow when he was a very young man. He has traveled up and down the rivers in the Peruvian jungles, almost from border to border, and into very isolated areas. He is an archaeologist, among many other things. He has tremendous knowledge on ancient history, ancient sites, the building of these megalithic stone stone creations and so forth that exist in different parts of the world. In Peru, especially in Peru, he has wonderful insight into all of that. He lived there for years. I think it was like 8 or 9 years that he lived there. If you're having trouble getting his attention, may sound odd, tell him you believe in God. Tell him you believe, that you're a believer, and that his points of view would be welcome. And I think that it would open a lot of doors for you with Timothy Alvarino.
We'll see what we can do.
It's just a thought for you if you're having trouble getting his attention. Because, like I say, go and listen to that overtime segment interview. It's only, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that, between Jimmy Church and him. And you'll learn a lot about who he is. You'll learn a lot about him. He's an amazing individual, walking encyclopedia for a lot of things. I appreciate you letting me come on. I know you're ready to go home.
Always, buddy. I can listen to your voice all the time.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's a huge compliment. Huge compliment. Hello to everybody out there in chat. Hello to y'all. Have a lot of fun in chat. I enjoy this place.
Good. We love it that you're here, my man.
All right, brother. Good night to you.
You too. And I'm going to say good night to all of you for the next week. After Hours and Jessica Jones will be here this weekend and the following weekend. I'm taking a week off to go hang out with my boy for a bit because we haven't really done much this summer. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And I will be back the first Monday of September. And our guest that night will be, who will we be? Martin Willis from Podcast UFO. We're going to have a great time. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the super chats tonight. Thank you for joining the Space Travelers Club. If you want to join it, just click. The link is in the description below. We'd really appreciate it. And we'll see you in a week's time, guys. Take care.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.